Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, your Sunset Safari live from the northeastern corner of magnificent South Africa, the iconic Kruger National Park. We are part of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, and my name is James Hendry. On camera today is David Daisy Eastor. I don't know why I call him that, but I feel it suits him rather well. On the other cast, Sam Wise, the Chevalier, and he is being filmed by all 6'4" of Brian the Thumb Joubert. In the final control, we have Rebecca the Headgear Christensen, and she is being ably assisted by Louise Pavie. By somewhat, they are now living on their own like old men who have come to the bar counter on a daily basis to sort of sit about, chew the breeze, and talk of better times. They're a bit old to keep up with the herd, many of them. Sometimes you'll find a young bull amongst these chaps. There are elephants coming, David.
Know what that was?
Yes. That's why the beefy is.
I'm very happy.
Right, sorry about that, everybody. Off behind us, coming... Oh, dear. Oh, sorry. I kicked the hooter there by mistake. Sorry about that. Off behind us, I can hear some elephants coming down. You can see the buffalo weren't affected in the slightest. They're just giving me dirty looks. But we can hear a big herd of elephants grumbling away. They're going... And there was a bit of a trumpet while you were away. So we're going to sit right here and see if they don't come down to have a drink. Now, what I was saying before we were rudely interrupted by some kind of technical glitch is that these old boys are not always just the old boys around. In fact, if we look over to who's coming down now, Dave, there's some girls coming down to meet the old boys at the bar, and this is why they're looking relatively more excited than they were to see us. Now, this is quite an odd arrangement, because they are, well, I mean, there are sort of 3 or 4 females only. And I can't hear a much bigger herd coming down this way, so that really is quite strange. A small breeding herd of buffalo here at Lake Treehouse. Right, while we wait for these elephants to come down and make their way to the water, or we might have to go off and have a look for them, but hopefully they'll come down and drink, let's head across to Sam Chevalier and find out what he's going to be doing for the afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to Safari Live on board with Brian Joubert and Samuel Chevalier. We are sitting here with an incredible looking male kudu. Have a look at those horns. Isn't that just magnificent to see those horns? The first animal that we see on drive is one of the best looking animals in my opinion. As you can see, he's looking straight at us. So I'm just trying to keep my voice down as best as possible so that I don't frighten him away. He truly is a really good-looking kudu bull. He's not the only one there, but you can't see the other 2 at the moment. They're a little bit behind the brush there, but it's been a while since I've seen a kudu with such long horns, and that will determine age. So sometimes the different spirals will tell you how old that kudu bull is. So if you go and have another look at those horns of this kudu, have a look at those horns. So there's 1 twist, 2 twists, 2.5 twists within those horns. So I wonder how old that is. I think it's probably around 2.5 years. Beautiful. With that, this afternoon, I would like to welcome Saint Stithians Footprint Committee. Welcome on board with us this afternoon. We've just seen a kudu bull. As you can see, he's magnificent looking. Hopefully we'll find you a few more things this afternoon. I know Saints very well. I have some of my best friends that come from St. Stithians. One in particular, his name's Donovan Heineke. He works at Londolozi, and we trained together or worked together at Londo's. So and I also played a bit of rugby at Saints, so it's good to know that you guys are on board with us this afternoon. But if you can just see, I think the ladies just came out of the bush. Yeah, you were on them there. Those were the ladies. And that was the male just in front of those ladies there. So that's how we can tell the difference is between the horns and the hornless over there. So some antelopes have sexual dimorphism, where you can tell a male through the horns and the female doesn't have horns. And most of the time the male is quite a bit larger than the female. So this afternoon I'm really excited to see if we can find a cheetah. In the time being, while we head off to Cheetah Plains, let's go and see James by the watering hole and the buffalo.
So we haven't moved from where you last saw us, everybody. This old bull has come walking along the waterhole wall to come and say hello. He's got a jaunty sort of Tom Sawyerish tussock of grass hanging from his mouth, and he's just coming to say hello. Now, they're all kind of facing to the north, because we can hear some elephants going, oh, and hopefully they'll come down here. A warm welcome to St. Stithians College, of course, of Randburg, Johannesburg. Deeply hurtful in my heart to have to say that to you, of course, because I was at that small stone school in Houghton, not anywhere near St. Stithians, but you are most welcome. It's good to have you with us, and I hope you enjoy what you're going to see in the next little while. At the moment, that's buffalo, and they're having a wallow in some mud. It's been a very kind of warm day for the season, and probably a lot warmer than it is in Johannesburg. It's about 27 degrees Celsius out here, which puts us at about 80 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit, for those of you still wandering about in the imperial system. And so the buffalo have had a very good time here in the water. And Debbie, you were watching the Djuma Dam camera earlier today, and in midday or so, or maybe even before that, you say the hyenas had a pool party there. And their pool party, of course, you're wondering if it is hot. Well, it's not hot. It's actually an extremely pleasant temperature. I'm sure you know that 80 degrees, when it reaches that once or twice in Vancouver every year, it's a very pleasant temperature. It's certainly, I mean, as far as autumn goes, we're almost in winter now. And so to have a temperature like this is just actually wonderful. It never gets that cold here. We're just going to sit here a little bit longer, simply because I think those elephants may well come down here to have a drink. And I'm just looking over sort of towards the back of the vehicle, behind your screens, or behind your head, actually, if you can imagine a virtual world, and seeing if any of the elephants don't come down here. It sounds like they're getting slightly closer, so what it might be is a breeding herd sort of walking through the woodland and feeding on their way, and some of the youngsters getting a little upset with each other and with the discipline being meted out by their parents. And so I think that's probably what the noise is. But let's wait here for a little while and just enjoy these buffalo. They won't hang around if the elephant come down. Like I was saying, before we went across to Sam, this is an unusual situation. And it's an unusual situation because there are a strange number of females here. And I just say it's strange because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so cows in a group of big bulls. Now, normally you'd just expect to find, oh, look at this chap. having himself a bit of a spa day there. He's a modern man, not afraid of a spa. And normally the cows would be off in a much larger herd, and I wonder if they haven't been maybe split apart by meeting some lions last night, where one group went off one way and this sort of splinter group came off here. Who knows? They'll certainly seek the comfort, or not the comfort so much as the security, of having these big bulls around them, because obviously they are a lot larger, and the lion is generally fairly terrified of a big buffalo bull unless they're in a big group. Can't hear the elephants anymore, and it sounds maybe like they've moved off towards the west. So I think that we should head off in that direction, see if we can't catch them, and if we don't, then we'll come back towards this waterhole a little bit later on. But the buffalo just look like they're having the best time, don't they, Dave? Does it make you want to dive into that mud? Yeah. Not so much. Well, maybe one day we will. I suppose it's inevitable that one day we will be fallen upon to leap into the mud. Oh, she's also having a spa day. You see that there? Very nice. You deserve it. Treat yourself. I was saying the other day, I did pick some mud out of the pan here and I put it on my face. And of course, there are people around the world who you could probably con into paying many, many hundreds of dollars for that kind of a face mask, calling it the Treehouse Dam Mud Mask or something like that, when actually it's just a collection of soil, buffalo dung, and the various waste products produced by the serrated hinged terrapin. Not sure how good that would be for your skin, but I guarantee you could convince people to pay hundreds of dollars. Most of those cows are heading off towards the south there. Maybe the rest of the herd is there. We're going to drive very carefully and slowly along this road and see if we can't catch the grey shapes of the elephants walking through this block. I don't see any at the moment. Oh, here's another buffalo, Dave. Now, this fellow is obviously a little bit more hungry than his mates. Hello. I don't know why it is, but whenever I see an animal like this with a piece of grass hanging out of his mouth, I think of a sort of Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn going down the Mississippi with a piece of grass and singing some kind of a tune under a very pleasant blue sky. It's probably not relevant to the rest of you, but I just thought I'd let you know. What he's doing, this is quite interesting here. Hang on a second. He's eating Strychnos madagascarensis, the black monkey orange. And buffalo are unusually browsers. I mean, they would generally choose to eat grass, but you can see there he's actively selecting the saplings of this encroacher species of tree. And I think he's kind of rejected it because it is full of fairly nasty toxins for most animals. I'm sure he can handle small amounts of it, but I doubt that he could survive on a diet of Strychnos madagascarensis alone. Alrighty, from one buffalo, let's join to another, accompanied by a much larger grey animal having a swim.
So you've just come from Treehouse Dam with James, and we are now with another buffalo, as you can see on the other side of this watering hole, but it's accompanied by a hippo that is right over there. Have a look at that hippo that is doing what it does best during the day, wallowing in the water. And there's an oxpecker. So if anyone, I know some people started their bird lists today. That's a red-billed oxpecker that you can see there, scissoring its way through the mud there to pick on some of the ticks that it likes to eat. That's a very cool picture there of the hippo just relaxing in that water. It gets very, very hot during the day, and sometimes it gets quite sunburnt and will excrete a red substance. So the hippo doesn't like to be outside of water. It prefers to be inside of water, and that's where it feels safest. But to explain that red substance that they excrete when they're very, very hot and in the sun, it's almost like a natural kind of sunblock that they produce to try and protect them from the sun. So we can't see that at the moment. Hopefully one day we'll be able to show you that red substance. It's incredible to see that. Renee from Synstithians would like to know why is the buffalo known as the most dangerous animal on foot? Well, Renee, the buffalo, when you're on foot, likes to mainly, let's talk about the one that we've just looked at. That buffalo has just left, so it's gone. I didn't even know where it went to. We were looking at that hippo. That buffalo will leave the breeding herds, the large herds, and will go off towards areas where it can find lush green grass as well as a place close to water, which is what they like to do in their old ages. So when you come across one of those buffalo when you're on foot, the idea is there's the buffalo, he's heading off into the thicket there, is that there's two things that animals do when they see a predator. It's fight or flight. And in many situations, a buffalo will rather fight because it doesn't have the energy to run away. So you always have to be very careful on foot with the buffalo, especially the older ones, when you're walking around, because they might just charge you. So it's always good to be careful when you come across them. I've had a few encounters with them where I've had to turn around and walk a good distance. So as soon as you see them, you turn around and you walk away. And just while we're there, there's something also on the side of the banks to Egyptian geese, and they are monogamous, so they will stick together. Beautiful looking geese. You often see them silhouetted into the background of a beautiful sunset, flying together. So down by our watering hole we had a nice big buff and a hippo, and we have two Egyptian geese. One of their feet is up. Why is that foot up? Have a look at that foot. The one on the right seems to have his foot up. Maybe it's injured. So it's rather a webbed claw, not a foot. But I'm not too sure why it might be up. Maybe it's injured. Not too sure why. But that is another bird for your bird list, an Egyptian goose, and you've got a red-billed oxpecker. So the bird lists are getting bigger as of today. I know Benny started them today. I know Dave on my vehicle this morning started a bird list this morning. So we're about to go down into this drainage line, and this is one of the times I saw the female lioness, who is very heavily pregnant. At least we assume that she's heavily pregnant. We've seen some signs. So just know that the signal might dip as we come down here, so we might experience a little bit of loss of signal, but it's so worth it if we go down there and we see something lying up in the thicket. Are you ready to go down into these drainage lines? Why animals like to be in these places during the hot days is because it's cool. Cooler air is denser, and it'll go down into the drainage lines, and animals like to lie up in that cool temperature. Okay, so I'm just going to keep quiet. You also can find leopards that'll be in this area. So have a look at the trees and see if there's any leopards sitting in the trees. That's a drainage line. A pregnant lioness was lying in there not so long ago. So it doesn't seem to be there. It's always nice to come down into these drainage lines because they are full of life. In the trees there will be some birds, some nests of birds. Many butterflies like to be around here. It's a special place down here. I always enjoy coming down into the drainage lines. But we are on our way to Cheetah Plains because I'm quite excited to find a cheetah today. And if not a cheetah, an ostrich or a jackal. So let's go from a hippo and a buffalo to something a bit larger than the two.
Of course, there is only one thing larger, and that is a great big bull elephant. He is a very, very large bull. This, I reckon, he's probably in excess of 40 years old, which put him at just over 6 tons, 6,000 kilograms, and look at his wizened old eyes. And I'm just trying to assess whether he's in must or not. I don't think that he is. But he's definitely paying us quite a lot of attention, and I'm pretty sure this is the elephant that we heard before. Now, Dave, you're in Toronto, and you've heard that elephant bulls can fight quite a lot, and that their fights seldom result in severe injury, but that they can go on for a while. Dave, yes, I would say that is probably true, although I don't think it's that frequently that they fight. I have very seldom seen two big bull elephants fighting with each other. That's an impala shouting behind us. Just have a quick look at him. He's had a rough last few months. He's lost a horn. They, on the other hand, Dave, fight unbelievably, regularly, viciously, and they've all got black eyes at the moment. Half of them have lost horns. They're all very stiff around the shoulders and chest region from their fighting. But male elephants, big bulls, I've seldom seen fighting with each other. But they do fight, and you're absolutely correct that they very seldom result in severe injury. Thank you for that, Dave. Back to the elephant. And the elephant is definitely listening to something. It might be us. It is us. He's just shaking his head at us, saying, "You're being slightly irritating to me." Maybe it's my voice, it could be. I'll just talk a little bit more quietly. He's about sort of 40 meters from us, which is about 120 feet, 130 feet or so. And he's definitely watching us. He doesn't look to me to be in musts. Now, if you look between his back legs there, Dave, you might be able to see if they are wet or not. They are not. See, I don't think he's in must. But he's listening. I think he's not the only elephant here, I don't think. I think there's one further off behind him that I can hear sort of feeding through the bush there. And that might be that he's following a herd. It might be another bull. In fact, I can see another elephant. And while that one's got his face hidden, I'm going to ask Dave to try and show it to you, because I don't think you're going to be able to see it. There's an elephant the same distance as this one is from us, through the bush, right over the top of my finger there, just to the left, or at least to the right of the aerial. And I bet you can't see him. He's but just behind that bush. And they are so well camouflaged, so silent, so able to be completely invisible when they want to be, that there is probably a 4.5-ton elephant there behind that tree, and you cannot see it or hear it or have any notion that it was here, other than the small sound of leaves being torn from the trees. Let's go back to the big bull here. He's in magnificent condition, and he's very much making a decision as to whether he should react to us or not. I think he would. I mean, he's engaging with us. We're now in an engagement with this elephant, and he's deciding whether he is comfortable with our presence here or not, or if he would like us to go away. If he would like us to go away, we were obviously going to acquiesce, because he is 6 tons. He is the real king, the royalty of the bush out here. We are mere minions underneath his magnificence. But at the moment, he's not giving us any indication that he'd like us to go away. He's magnificent. He really is he's a big chap, that. If you were to, basically 2 of me, I'm 5'8", and 2 of me would probably be able to just about touch his ear if we stood on each other's shoulders. And Marcel, you say we probably caught him dozing. I'd say you were right, except that I heard them rumbling at each other while we were just sort of behind him is where the waterhole was, so we've come round on another road. And they were rumbling at each other. Look, he's leaning. But yeah, he does look a bit dozy, doesn't he? I mean, a big elephant bull can look pretty dozy if he wants to. And he's lean, you know. He's not I don't think he's had a particularly good summer. He's looking pretty lean. He doesn't look unhealthy at all, but he's not quite as wide as some of the elephants I've seen. He also seems to be doing some form of stretching exercise. That's very interesting. Perhaps his physiotherapist has given him a stretch to do for his left back hip. Perhaps Brent Leo Smith could take a little bit of advice from this fellow. We'll teach Brent that stretch when he gets back tomorrow. And Smile More, that's a lovely name. Smile More, you want to know how long an elephant can live? Well, potentially in this area, probably about 60 to 65 years. I wouldn't be surprised to find that there's a majority of elephants that don't live much beyond 55, but potentially 60 to 65, and in areas where the vegetation is softer, their teeth don't wear out quite as fast and they can live a bit longer. And I think you'll probably find that there have been elephants held in captivity that live to at least 70 or so. As far as I'm aware, also, the Asiatic elephant or Asian elephant is a longer-lived species than our own African elephant. The breeze starting to come up now. Dean from Nelspruit, what an interesting question to which I do not know the answer, but maybe somebody in the Twitterverse does, one of our regular viewers. You say, is it true that elephants have 3 eyelids? Dean, as far as I know, they've only got 1 on each eye. I've never seen them closing any other kind of eyelid, but that's really interesting. Dean, I've never heard that, but I'm not saying that it's impossible. So if anybody has any idea how many eyelids an elephant has, well, let me know, please. There you go. Dave, you can see it just over the nod to the left-hand side. Oh, no, he's hiding from you again. Sorry. There, you've got an ear flapping behind the bushes there. Isn't that cool? So amazingly hidden. And while we're watching that elephant, it's obviously the big bull that we're going to pay attention to. Simply because, well, it's a 6-ton, 35 to 40-year-old elephant bull. It's indicating that he's not that pleased with your presence. It's all a very good idea to keep an eye on him. He does look a little angst-ridden, and you know, they say that elephants give you a sense of how they feel. What a fascinating, fascinating question from Laura in the UK. Laura, it's really interesting. You say that you once read that elephants will eat birds' nests sometimes, or weaver birds' nests, and do I think that's a function of the fact that they develop a taste for eggs or for nestling chicks? Laura, I don't think it's that at all. I'm going to go back to an example I gave a little while back when we were talking about swifts. And there is, of course, that bird called the edible nest swift, which I think lives in Southeast Asia somewhere. If I'm not mistaken, I hope I've got that right. Might be South America. If it is, I apologize. And the edible nest swift, of course, you can make soup out of its nests. And I think what you'll find is that, I mean, elephants are able to eat pretty dry stuff. I think that you'll find within a weaver's nest, of course, there's a great multitude of different kinds of grasses, lots of seeds. You might also find that they have an ability to digest the, maybe even the nutrients in some of the feathers, even the nutrients in the egg shells, if there are any egg shells inside a bird's nest, which is, I suppose, would be unusual. But I really don't think that there's ever an active attempt to eat the chicks or the sort of living eggs or raw eggs, simply because I don't think an elephant has the digestive system capable of digesting that. But that really fascinates me. I'd love to know where that was from and exactly which species of weaver was sampled by the hungry elephant. Let's go a little bit forward and have a look at the others, if we can see them. They're really not too far away. If he carries on towards in that direction, he's going to hit that water hole. So we might just pop back there and see if he has a drink there. Now, Gilly, all the way in the North Country in York, please excuse my attempt at your Yorkish accent. I'm unable to stop myself when that happens. You want to know about the programs to get rid of elephant poaching, and one in particular, the dyeing of the tusks, and whether that has been used and what the status of it is here. Gilly, I don't actually know in the Kruger National Park what the status of it is. I would think that it is almost impossible for the Kruger National Park elephants to be dyed. On a small private reserve, you know exactly how many elephants you have, and it's entirely possible to dart them and color their tusks. In a population this size, which is at least 20,000 strong, it would be almost impossible to get all of them and sort of dye their tusks. It would be totally impossible. I mean, the sheer logistics of darting them, dyeing the tusks, waking them up, and then hoping you've got them all would be just completely impossible. So I don't think it's ever going to happen in the Kruger National Park. I think it's far more likely that it will happen on smaller reserves. All right, let's head across to Sam. He's on Cheetah Plains. Let's hope he finds some cheetah. I'm going to hopefully go around and see if we can't find those elephants coming down to have a drink.
So you've just had some elephants with James, and we are now on our way to the plains to see what we might be able to find this afternoon. We're on the main road now, and we'll head there. Hopefully this afternoon, if there's anything specific you would like to see on the plains, because it's a much different environment there in terms of what you will be seeing with James this afternoon. I would really like to see a jackal and an ostrich, as I said earlier, but there are specific also birds that you get there, like such as the franklins or the spurfowls. There's a Swainson spurfowl that I once saw there. James Richard, you said you would like to improve your bird list. I know that did you start a bird list this morning? That's great. I'll see if I can find you whatever is out there this afternoon. Jeepers, James, you've got 153 birds. That's very impressive, James. We'll see if we can improve that by bits. You know, knowing that you have 153 means that we need to be looking extra carefully today for the ones that aren't as common as the ones that you have seen. So I'm going to do my very best to look in the different nooks and crannies of Cheetah Plains that might show us and help you raise that number, as well as everyone else that's out there. Birds is without a doubt probably the one thing that I enjoy the most in terms of looking and finding, other than looking for cats. So I'd love to find you something beautiful, something colourful this afternoon. There's one bird I haven't seen in my life before, and it's a Narina trogon, and one day I just can't wait to see that. Lael in Washington would like to know, when do the birds migrate and do they fly in flocks? It's a really good question, Lael. So we've just come to the end of the summer season here, and that's when most of our migratory birds will leave us. So after the rains, after that summer season, they all get together and they fly off in different directions. For example, I learned the other day, I think it's called the violet-backed starling. It's the name of one of the birds that congregates. They all meet on a tree and then they move together. We're about to go into a dip, so you might lose us for a few seconds. Sorry. We're back in action, everyone. We're back in action, and we're on the way to Cheetah Plains. So, yes, so there are a number of migratory birds and also birds of prey, and it's a good question, Lael. I like that because it's, I don't actually know what happens with the Wahlberg's eagle. The Wahlberg's eagle is. Let me just turn this down. I can't quite hear myself. Can't talk over these people talking to me. But there's a Wahlberg's eagle. That's a bird of prey that leaves at the end of the summer season as well. It was actually the first bird or the first anything that I saw on drive, and it was with Brian when we were on Wahlberg's Road and we saw a Wahlberg's eagle. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was a very pivotal experience that I've had. Going live for the first time to you all, I was very nervous, very scared. But Lael, I'm going to find out more about that, especially with birds of prey. I'm quite interested, in terms of where they'll go and what exactly they do in terms of, do they go in flocks? Do they go gregarious? It's a great question. And something that fascinates me is how a bird, such as a swallow, is able to know where it migrates to, and it can go to the exact same location as it was last time, which is just incredible. I mean, just imagine flying on your own to another part of the world and then flying back to the exact same little nest that you had at the beginning of the year. It's just remarkable how nature is able to do these many things. And from what I understand, it's all based on magnetism. So how there's in the beak there's some sort of magnetism that's able to connect to the Earth's magnetism, and then through that a bird is able to locate exactly where its home is. So there's all sorts of intuitive sciences within the natural world that we are still beginning to unravel. Marcel from Peter Maritzburg just asked a question. Rebecca, can you go with it again? I just heard half of it. So what I heard was Pell's fishing owls. That's a good question, Marcel. I don't think we do. Because I've had a look. I've had a look at the number of owls that are here, and that isn't one of them that I've seen. But I could have got that wrong. I've never seen that bird out here in the Sabi Sands. But you know what? It's all a learning game. So we'll go back to the books a bit later and see where exactly that owl likes to exist. I'll have a look at my book, and for the time being, let's go and chat to James and see what he's up to.
Now, one of the most commonly asked questions out here, of course, is about family structure, because as human beings, especially sort of westernized human beings, the idea of a nuclear family has become part of our culture. And what's unusual here is that we find a little nuclear family, which is not actually the standard issue social arrangement for a waterbuck. That's a waterbuck bull. He's running off in fear. And off to the right-hand side, we have got a waterbuck cow and her little baby, which looks like a donkey, but isn't. And if you look very carefully, or you can't actually see it, but he's a little male, and he's just got very, very tiny little horns starting to come out of his head. Yeah, you could just see them. Very sweet. So normally the social situation would be a number of cows together with their attendant offspring, and the bulls either in a bachelor group, or if they were like this magnificent bull, he's just come out onto the road, Dave, then on their own. There's something going on here. I've just heard some babblers shouting, and I can hear a squirrel alarm calling. Squirrels going, and the babblers are calling. It's most likely a snake. It's a long way from where we are. It's just to the left-hand side of where that waterbuck is. But I think the waterbuck would react immediately if they were seeing something larger, like a leopard, perhaps. He's just focused on his little family. I'm sure he's the father of the little one. He's just a fantastic-looking fellow, isn't he? I'm going to sneak forward. Those squirrels are getting very upset indeed. So let's sneak forward and see if we can't see anything underneath there. They're down in this drainage line, this dry stream bed here, and just up the other side. there. I think there's a raptor, a bird. I'm sure I saw one just coming down. The other thing you can see, just on the tree there, Dave, is a white-crowned shrike, a southern white-crowned shrike. Two of them. They don't look particularly alarmed by life, but they are looking down. And what's just flown up there is a Cape glossy starling, or greater blue-eared glossy starling, one of the two. I can't see the squirrel that's alarm calling, but it's very cross. Can you hear it? Anyway, I suspect a snake or a raptorous bird, except that those other birds are in the tree, so it probably wasn't a bird-eating raptor. Dave, is that was the white-crowned shrike on your list of 5?
Not yet. No.
Good, right. Number 6, and the greater blue-eared glossy starling?
Nope.
Number 7, good grief, you are doing a good job today.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yes, you absolutely have to start somewhere. Let's carry on. I just check if the elephant hasn't come down to drink, and if he hasn't, we'll go sort of down that road there and see if anything interesting has popped up there. There were lion tracks around here this morning. I figured that they were the same ones that went directly out north of the reserve, but maybe there's a male lion lurking lazily in the bushes here. So we've just basically done a loop around the block, and we're going to approach the dam. When I last saw you in this area, we were coming this way, and I turned on and went back around this way, and now we're approaching the dam from the other end. Don't see the elephant at the moment, and he was coming through there. Hello, Mrs. Walters and Mrs. Strack of Three Oaks Elementary, and most importantly, hello to you, kids of the Three Oaks Elementary School, ages 7 and 8. My name's James, Dave's on camera, and it's lovely to have you with us for the next half an hour or so. I think it's half an hour, and look what we've got over here to show you. First off, some buffalo bulls. See? Some big buffalo bulls. They're very happy to meet you, and of course they're the most obviously compared with the bison that you get there in the United States. We don't get bison here, but we do get buffalo, and that's what we've just seen. We're going down to a waterhole here, and we're hoping to see some elephants, because there was one very, very big elephant coming towards this area, and elephants like to drink at around about this time of the day, so we'll keep an eye out. I don't see him at the water at the moment, but let's just look through here, through this thick bush. I don't see any elephants there now. So this bush, everybody, is called woodland. And I know many of you will have heard of savanna, which is a kind of bush with lots of trees and lots of grasses. But this is called woodland. There's many more trees here than there are in savanna. Hello, Jake. Here are some more buffalo. Jake, you want to know if we've got buzzards here? Well, we've got what you would call buzzards, yes. But we don't call them buzzards, we call them vultures. And I'll show you a picture of a vulture while you look at those buffalo who are looking at us. And I'm hoping still that elephant is going to come wandering through here and come down and have a drink. But if he doesn't, we'll go around the other side and see if we can find him again. Ooh. Those two bulls look like they might have a bit of a fight, but they're not going to. Okay, Dave, if you could just show Jake the book here. Those are what we have here. They're called vultures, and they look a little bit like what you would call a buzzard. See? We do have buzzards here, but they look a little bit like what you would call a hawk. So So those are the buzzards or vultures that we get in this part of the world. We'll try and find you one, other than just in a book, Jake. But let's go around the corner here and see what else we can find. Marina, a nice question from you, which is going to require me to clean up a little bit of a misconception. You want to know the difference between a water buffalo and a wildebeest. Now, these are not water buffalo, Marina. A water buffalo occurs only in Asia and some introduced examples into Australia. So we are in Africa, of course, which is a long, long way from Asia. And although this looks like a water buffalo, it's not a water buffalo. It's called a Cape buffalo, and it is not anything like, well, I mean, it looks a little bit like a water buffalo. But like a wildebeest is much, much smaller. It's from a slightly different family, but they do look the same in some ways. They've got very similar shaped horns, and both male and female have horns in the same way, but a wildebeest is about half the weight. In fact, less than half. So a big bull wildebeest probably weighs about 500 pounds, maybe 600 pounds. Those big buffalo bulls there, they weigh more than 2,000 pounds. So a wildebeest is much smaller. So those big buffalo, they stand about 4.5 to 5 feet at the shoulder. In fact, at least 5 feet at the shoulder, and they weigh over 2,000 pounds. So that's enormous. We're just hoping to see these elephants come hopping through the vegetation here. We might be lucky, but we might not, and then we'll find something else wonderful. Because this whole area is full of many, many wondrous things. You know, there are over 250 types of bird that you can see here, just in this one little area. And Taylor, you want to know why the buffalo's horns get so big. Well, Taylor, a buffalo's horns are used to protect it from its major predators. And its major predator, of course, is a lion. And a lion is very big. And so if you want to protect yourself from a lion, you've got to have very big horns. And that's basically why a buffalo has got large horns. Let's just turn onto this road here. We might be lucky with some elephants. Oops. I don't see them here. So let's turn off the car, because one of the major things that you've got to do out here when you live in the wilderness is use all of your senses. And you've got 5 senses, as I'm sure many of you know. One of them is seeing, which is what we're all doing now. And the other of them, the most important one, I think, out here, is your sense of hearing. You've got to be able to listen. See if you can hear the sound of an elephant walking through the bush. Brianna, what a very clever question from you while we look for the elephants. You say, do I know of any animals out here that depend on each other to live? Well, you know, there are many, many animals out here that do depend on each other, but not always to live. But they do have what we call symbiotic relationships, where they help each other from time to time. And one of the examples of that would be an oxpecker. And an oxpecker is a special kind of bird. There's an elephant. Look at that, Dave. You see the elephant there? It's an elephant cow coming towards us. Let's enjoy the sighting of her. Brianna, I'm going to carry on with your question because it's a very good one. So we get these birds that live on buffalo and impala and nyala and kudu, which are other animals that we get here. And the oxpeckers help to keep them free of parasites. Now, I don't know if you know what a parasite is, but I bet you know what a tick is. And a tick is a kind of parasite, and that's what the oxpeckers keep off the animals that they live on. And so that relationship is very good. Then you get very interesting relationships between animals like a dwarf mongoose, which looks like a rat but isn't a rat, and they live in little groups, and they have a relationship with animals called hornbills. And the hornbills are, well, they're Zazu birds. I'm sure you've all seen The Lion King, and you know about Zazu, and he's a hornbill. And the mongoose and the hornbills like to move together because they can act as alarm bells for each other, so they can act as security guards for each other. They'll move forward and try and see those elephants again. But, so a hornbill, of course, can fly, and so they stay up high and they keep a lookout for predators that might want to eat the mongoose. And at the same time, the mongoose walk around on the ground and they dig up things that the hornbills might like to eat. So they have a very important relationship with each other. What a very clever question. Thank you, Brianna. Let's move a little bit forward. Oh, I can hear more elephants over there. I'm just going to try and get us into a position where we can see them nicely. There's a good view of one here, Dave. All right, let's head across to Sam. He's my friend, and he's out on the other side of the reserve, and he's also looking for animals for you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Strack, Mrs. Altman, and 3 Oaks Elementary. It's awesome to have you out on safari this afternoon. We are out on the Cheetah Plains, the big open places, or plains, where we have different game that where you have with James. James has the buffalo, the elephant, and all those different things. And I heard you've just been with an elephant. And I thought, let's get out the vehicle and show you a little bit about how elephants might work. In my hand, I'm holding some elephant dung that is very, very dry. Exceptionally dry, actually. I can't even open it. So this is a couple days old. Don't worry, everyone. It's okay that I open this. It's not disgusting. It's just made out of bark and grass, and that is the diet of these elephants. So it's okay. So that's what they like to eat, is to eat the bark and the grasses and sorts. But let's just for a moment pretend that I'm an elephant. Have a look at this tree. This tree has been pushed over, much like an elephant uses its tusks, those big, big tusks. It will push a tree over like this, and it'll take, and with its mouth, it'll rip down the bark, and it'll eat the cambium layer, which is the nice, nutritious layer underneath this bark. So elephants are strong, they can push down trees, and there is some good nutrients within the tree. So that's why these trees get knocked over. But it's okay, because when logs and trees fall down, it creates much more habitat for other animals, such as spiders and scorpions. And you know what, this afternoon, I'm quite keen to go and see a spider. I don't know if you guys like spiders, but this afternoon I'd love to see one. So let me know if you see a spider while we're on drive, because sometimes I don't see the spiders and they pop up sometimes. I don't know how, they just do. So let's see if we can go and find a spider, or potentially a cheetah, or potentially a large animal such as an elephant like this one. Have a look at that one. You just saw that with James, and now you've got one in front of my vehicle. His name is Mr. Ellie, or Elvis the Ellie, that helps us find different things out here in the bush. Okay, so we'll see a bit later. Let's go and see an actual Ellie. Who would have done that damage? The elephants.
They've come out of the sort of thicket there, everybody, and they've come into the open. You can see a tree there that has been pushed over by elephants, but that one would have been pushed over by a very much bigger elephant than the one over there. That's a youngster, probably about 8 years old. And there's one just behind that's about 12, maybe 15 even. Mason, or Nathan, I can't hear which, a very nice question from you, Mason. You're wondering, a very good question. Of course, we live in a very dry area here where we only get about, well, if we're lucky, about 600 millimeters of rain in a year, which is about 3 feet, which is, sorry, I'm just working it out. No, it's 2 feet, sorry. And that's 24 inches of rain a year, plus minus, if we're very lucky. And Mason, you want to know, if the elephants can't find water in a dry area like this, what do? Well, they've got 2 options, really, Mason. The first option, in fact, it's actually their only option, is to move. They've got to try and find water somewhere else. And elephants are very, very dependent on water. They need water to survive. And so they have to move sometimes very big distances to make sure that they can find water. Sorry, I was just looking around. I thought I heard a noise behind us, but I didn't. I'm sure there are other elephants all through these thickets. So, Mason, they do have to move towards water if they can find it. But if they don't find water, Mason, then, yeah, they, unfortunately, and in many parts of Africa, when there is a big drought, lots of elephants will die, unfortunately. Maybe let's sneak a little bit further forward. And Hayden, you want to know how long elephants live. Hayden, they live in some areas up to about 65 years. But in this area, probably about 60 years, maybe even 55. But that is quite long for a mammal, of course. They're definitely the longest living mammals out here, except, of course, for the human being. We're just going to roll down the hill here. Louis, you want to know if elephants sleep standing up. Well, some of them do. The big ones like to sleep standing up, but the little ones, they like to lie down, and they live a very tiring life, you know. Louis, what you do, of course, when you go home, you have a snooze. You don't have to move around too much. Someone gets you something nice to eat, maybe a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and some juice, and then you have a lie down if you want. But this little chap, he's telling us to go away, doesn't want to see us. Now he's a little bit nervous, so he's going back into the bushes. And Louis, a young elephant out here, of course, doesn't have the same kind of options that you do when you go home. So they have to move around all the time with the herd. They move so far, and so sometimes they just get so tired that they have to lie down. But the big ones, they don't have to lie down. They don't sleep very much, you know, only about 4 hours of the day. And because they've got such big organs, now do you know what an organ is, Louis? Your heart is an organ, your liver, your lungs, those are all organs. And because the organs of an elephant are so heavy, if they lie down on one side for too long, all of the blood goes out of them and they start to crush one another. And so elephants normally, when they're adults, will sleep standing up or leaning against a tree. And it's not unusual to find an elephant bull leaning against a big marula tree with his head fast asleep like that. There, you can hear them breaking sticks in the background. Abby, very good question. You say if the elephants only sleep for 4 hours of the day, what do they do at night? They eat, Abby. They have to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Because they're so big, they have to find food all the time. You know, a big bull elephant, Abby, will eat up to 660 pounds of food in one day. 660 pounds. Now, Abby, if you're between 7 and 8 years old, I'm going to bet that you probably weigh somewhere around 40 pounds. Plus, minus, yeah, about 40 pounds. And you can imagine how many of you would go into the amount of food that an elephant has to eat. 660 pounds for a big elephant. And that's why they have to keep eating at night time as well. They can only sleep for a short time. Selena, what a lovely question from you. You're obviously quite a mature 7 to 8 year old. You say, do the elephants always get along, or do they sometimes have to be on their own? Selena, they're actually quite like human beings, you know, in many respects. So you know that some of your friends like to be alone sometimes, and you'll have some friends that always like to be around people. And I think you'll find the same with some elephants. Some of them like to spend alone time, and some of them like to be around their friends all the time. What you can say, though, is that the very big bulls, the mature male elephants, they quite like to be alone for quite a lot of the time. And, you know, that's actually also quite like old human men. They also like to spend quite a long time on their own. And Leah, you're also interested in how long an elephant baby stays with its mum. Leah, depends on whether it's a boy or a girl elephant. The young girl elephants will stay with their mothers forever. They live in the same herd, and they will live in their mother's herd until their mother dies. And then they stay in the same herd, and they will become mothers within the same herd. But the bulls, the male elephants, when they're 18 or so, they have to leave home. They get told to leave the herd, and they go off in groups on their own. and I think it's a very difficult time for them, and they go off in groups on their own, and then when they're about 25, they sort of start to live completely alone. And so they were only with their mothers, well, they're with their mothers for about 18 years. Dylan, you say, why are the elephant's tusks so long? Well, that one doesn't have long tusks at all. It's got very short tusks. But tusks are very useful if you're an elephant for eating. And this one is not going to, I don't know if it's going to show you how, but often they will wedge or break off branches with those tusks and put them between the trunk and the tusk, and they'll be able to break sticks. And then sometimes they stick tusks into the bark of trees, and that helps them to pick off strips of bark. So they really are very, very useful indeed. And often, you know, you do get some very, very big tusked elephants. But if an elephant has got really long tusks, it's actually not very helpful. Because if they've got tusks like that one's got there, they can use them very easily. They can dig out bits and pieces from the trees and break off bark and break off twigs and branches that they want to eat. But if you've got great big tusks that weigh sort of 60 pounds each and then they touch the ground, it's very difficult to make them useful for anything other than looking good. And as we all know, as we're all taught, being good looking is not the only important thing in the world. A very nice question about why their ears are so big. Their ears are so... Look at them greeting each other, you see that? They put their trunks in each other's mouths and just have a bit of a smell, and that's how they know who they are. Well, they know who they are by sight, but that's just saying hello. That's how they say hello to each other. Lovely question about the ears and why they're so big. Well, they're so big because an elephant actually has to stay cool. And can you believe that those ears play a really important role in making the elephants cool? All of the blood that goes from the ears goes into the brain, and the brain stays cool because the elephant is flapping his ears all the time, cooling the blood that flows through them. So they're really important for staying cool. Those are two young bulls having a little bit of a fight. It's not a serious fight at all. It's just like when you see two young boys on the playground having a bit of a wrestling match. It's exactly what's going on here. They're not angry with each other. There's no fighting going on. They're just having a bit of a sort of a playtime. And Abby, you make a very good point. They eat 660 pounds a day, so how much water do they need to drink? Well, a big bull elephant can eat up to probably the same again in water. So between sort of 150 and 300 litres of water, and that is, 300 litres is, if I do in gallons, we divide by 5, so we get to 2. I've lost my mind. I can't divide 30 by 5 anymore. 60 gallons of water in a big elephant if he's very thirsty, and about 30 gallons in an elephant that's not so thirsty. So there they've wandered off into the bush there. And while we go and find something else for you to look at, Sam's got a wonderful herd of buffalo to show you.
We are in luck this afternoon, everyone. We got to the watering hole and I looked to my right and I saw a whole breeding herd of buffaloes coming towards the water. This is just so exciting because look at the youngster. There's a nice young, there he is, a little calf. So these are buffalo. So once again, the most dangerous animals on foot. But this is a nice big breeding herd, so you get mostly females and youngsters that will be in here. But this is so cool. Let's have a look and see where they will come in to have a drink of water, or will they leave it? I'm pretty sure they'll come in and have a drink. I think they're just trying to work out the best access route. There we go, the first one's taken stage. All the red-billed oxpeckers are on its back. And those are the birds that will pick out all the little ticks that are inside, well, that are on top of the fur of the buffalo. This is so cool. Look at all these buffalo coming through here. There's another young one that's just jumped up. It's quite a little hill for them to come down, but they're very thirsty. It's been a hot day in Africa today. You can see this is quite a large herd. You can just see above that there are quite a few coming. We can't even see the end. Zoe would like to know why they all come to the watering hole together. Zoe, they come together because it's safety in numbers. They're a big family group. You can imagine there are a whole bunch of families that go together and they travel together and they do grazing. So grazing is when they eat the grass on the floor and then they'll drink together. So they move in herds, Zoe. You get some animals that don't move together, like leopards that are solitary. A leopard is a cat, a big cat. And these are buffaloes. So they're big, almost like cows. Very similar to cows, but a bit bigger. And they're horns. If you have a look how big those horns are. So there's a young horn there. There's a female one there. That's a female. That looks like another female. That's a male. Look at the size of that boss. That is a huge boss. I can't believe how many buffalo there are at the moment. It's incredible to see this. Of course, so a boss, if you want to know what a boss is, that's a boss that's right in front of us there. It's the big horn that's on top of their head, and that's what they'll use for protection against predators as well as dominance. So sometimes you'll see the big males, which are the two big boys, will fight against each other and they'll knock on their bosses. So those are what bosses are. But they are quite big, as you can see. So Ryan would like to know, are there any crocodiles that might be lurking around the water here? No, there are no crocodiles. We'll take a good look though. I don't think so. No crocodiles in the water this afternoon, so they can feel quite safe. But they do have to be quite wary of the crocodiles. We don't get alligators. Alligators will, so you see now, some of them are leaving. Just notice that while I carry on with alligators you get in South America and other parts of the world. You don't get them here in Africa. We get the crocodile. So have a look at all those beautiful birds. Yes, so those birds are the oxpeckers, as I said a bit earlier. They like to eat the ticks. If you know what a tick is a little insect that likes to suck the blood of some of the animals here. So they like to eat those. So those red-billed oxpeckers will jump around all the backs of these buffalo and pick at all those ticks that are on them. So that's what those birds are. And those birds will tell you a lot when you're in the bush. When you're walking on foot on your own and you hear the sound of these birds, you know that there might be some buffalo that could be around the corner. Have a look. It's really nice. They clean the buffalo for them, so they really like the birds coming and jumping along them. As you can see, they get into their ears. So they don't have hands to scratch their ears, to scratch their stomachs, to scratch their backs. These birds act as a scratching device as well as a collecting of parasites, which are those little ticks. So Rihanna is asking, do some of the animals depend on one another in order to live? Well, yes, some animals are social. So that social means they like to live together in family groups. Much like your family at home, you guys like to live together, eat together, and go out to different places together. That's the same with the buffalo. They like to be in big groups, big family groups, and that'll help them grow together, help the youngsters grow better in this environment and protect them from the big lions and the leopards that might be stalking around the area. So these are very, very social animals. Aidan, that's a great question. You're asking if buffaloes eat fish. No, Aidan, buffaloes do not eat fish. They just eat grass. So they'll graze on the grasses around us here. You'll see that this is quite an open area. When we have a look later on and drive out, we'll show you the types of grasses that the buffalo like to eat, but they don't eat fish. when they come to the watering holes, they just come and drink water, as you can see. You've just seen them drinking here. And it looks like the breeding herd has stopped walking in, so it must be about 100. How many do you guys think? How many have you seen since we have driven in here? There must be about 100. So I can't see behind them anymore. Eva Lee would like to know how far from the watering hole will the buffalo like to travel. Well, Eva Lee, the buffaloes will move from watering hole to watering hole, and there's some females that are called the pathfinders. They will move the herd towards different watering holes and to different areas where they can graze on the grasses. So that's what the buffaloes do. They don't just stay at one watering hole, they go to a number of different watering holes around the area. Isn't that clever of them? Because if they stayed in one place, then all the water would dry up, and also the water would get very, very dirty after some time. So it's in their advantage to move around, collect different waters. Ali is asking if the buffaloes will go all the way into the water sometimes. Ali, they do that sometimes. The other day, myself and Brian, who is the cameraman, we went off and we saw a whole bunch of buffaloes in the middle of a watering hole. So sometimes they will do that. And as you can see, they are quite well into this watering hole here. There they are, right in there. You can see they're all the way up to their bellies. So they also like to come to the watering hole to put mud on them and just to cool down in these hot days. It gets very hot out here. Sometimes it can get up to 40 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's a very, very hot degree. 140. Sorry, not
104 degrees.
104 degrees. Thank you, Brian. 104 degrees Fahrenheit. That is very, very hot. Imagine how hot that is. Sorry, I said 140. That would be very hot. That would be too hot. But isn't that beautiful? We're going to just drive around the other side there and have a look to see what the other buffaloes are doing. Ethan would like to know, do all the buffaloes live in one herd? So there are a number of different buffaloes that live in these herds, and sometimes the males will break away to move towards other herds. So mainly the females and the calves will stay in the herds, and the males will go away to find other herds and join other herds. Isn't that beautiful? Now we can see a nice shot of them from the left here all the way into the water. So there are so many this afternoon. This is probably the biggest breeding herd of buffalo that I've seen at Cheetah Plains. So I've seen some big ones before, but this is really, really big. And do you know what likes to trail and follow buffalo herds? Some of the predators, mainly the lion. So that's why it's quite exciting this afternoon. We can also drive through this area, and there might be some lions that are following this big breeding herd. And those lions will look for the smaller buffaloes to try and take advantage of. And the females, like the one that you're looking at now, will try and protect their young as best as possible. But if they leave one of their young open in an open area, a lion might just take it. So they've got to be very careful. Madeline would like to know, what other animals do the buffaloes fight against? Well, mainly they'll fight against and protect themselves from predators such as the lion. So if they see a lion or a wild dog or a leopard, they'll just show them, you know, it's not often you'll have cats like the leopard or the cheetah that'll try and take a buffalo. It's mainly the lions that like buffalo, so they'll protect themselves from buffalo. No, sorry, they'll protect themselves from lions, not buffalo. So buffalo are very, very, very aware of all the lions that might be in their area. That's why it might be an exciting afternoon. We might just be lucky enough to follow and see some lions that will be trailing this big, big group of buffalo. We know that the male lions that live close to this area called the Birmingham boys, they love to eat buffalo. So they have to be quite careful, these buffalo, because they're in the territory of the male lions called the Birminghams, as I said, and they love to eat buffalo. So they must be quite careful this evening if they sleep here tonight. Have a look at how big they are. So they're just a bit bigger than that of a cow. And look at that boss. You can see, as I said, a boss is the horns. So the one on the, oh wow. So that is so big. It's very, very scary when you are walking in the bush sometimes and you come across a buffalo and it's looking straight at you with those big horns. It gets quite scary sometimes. See how that bird is jumping around the buffalo? So if we're lucky, we'll get to see a yellow-billed oxpecker. So what we are seeing now is a red-billed, and we might be able to see a yellow-billed, and they are quite rare. So the two that we just saw there were red-billed oxpeckers. So it looks like the buffaloes are now leaving this area, which is quite interesting because they came from that area. They came and drank water, and they're going back towards the open areas. And let's see who's going to take and move the herd forward. If we have a look at the front of the herd there, who is directing the herd? And there we go. So the one on the left there is leading the herd forward, and that's really interesting to see that, to see who the buffalo is. Well, thought I saw a little bit of a fight between some of the buffaloes there. So that buffalo leading the herd is now behind a bush, so we can't see it anymore. We still have quite a number of buffalo. They're looking at us quite curiously, some of them. There they go. Oof, so that looks like quite a big male. So it looked like the male was moving first there. So as I said, sometimes the males will play fights with each other to show dominance and to get stronger. So if we're lucky, we might just see a little bit of dominance display between two males. And they'll run at each other with those bosses, which are those horns on top of their head. So there they go. Wow, what an incredible sighting. I'm so glad that Three Oaks Elementary were all here to witness a buffalo breeding herd come from the distance to come and drink water. Can you imagine having to travel far distances just to get some water? So it's very special when you get to see some of the big animals coming to drink some water. Wow, that's another big boss. You can just see that buffalo is rubbing its head against that wood there. So what it was doing there was trying to clean its boss, those parasites. They get a number of parasites on its boss, which is the horns, and it uses it to rub against. But you can see he's rubbing now the side of his stomach against that little stump, little piece of wood on the right there. That's really cool. Great filming by Brian. And in this, he'll be trying to rub any of the parasites, which are the ticks that might be on his body. That's very cool to see that. So Jesse's asking, do you ever have to worry about the buffalo charging? Yes, Jesse, you do need to worry about the buffalo charging, as they, not with these big breeding herds specifically, mainly when you come across one of them. As I said earlier, they can be quite dangerous. When you are on your own and they are on their own, they don't feel safe, so sometimes they may charge you. So you always have to be very careful when coming close to a solitary buffalo. But he's still rubbing himself against that stump. It looks like he really likes it. So if we went up towards that stump now, we'd probably find quite a few of those ticks that I mentioned earlier. on that little piece of wood or stump. Beautiful. Now we can see all those buffalo. It must be about 50 to 100 strong, so around maybe 70. And they'll be heading off towards some of the other open areas. So this afternoon we'll be driving towards more open areas, and potentially we may see where they're all going. There goes the leader. It looks like the leader, but it's actually quite an old bull. Which a bull is a big male buffalo. So it's very, very cool to be out here with the buffalo this afternoon. Let's get onto the road and just have a look at them. So, we are going to now head along this road towards the big open areas and see what we might be able to find this afternoon. It's been a fantastic afternoon with these buffaloes. I hope that you've all really enjoyed it, but maybe we'll see them a bit more. Maybe there'll be some lions coming towards it. But for the time being, let's go and see how James is doing this afternoon. I'm sure you're all missing his friendly smile. We're still looking for a spider, so pay attention, we might just find it.
Hello everybody. I'm climbing in a tree, obviously, and I'm trying to get you a very special plant. Now, you're never too old to climb a tree. If you can believe it, I'm nearly 40 years old. Can you believe how old that is? Well, I'm climbing in the tree like a monkey. And what I'm going to try and do is get hold of a very special plant called a mistletoe. Now, some of you will know what mistletoe is, because sorry about the radio. Some of you will know about mistletoe because your parents will put it above the Christmas tree. This is it here. Now, it's a very special plant because it's not part of the tree that I'm in. And I think that's just amazing. So, we had a question earlier from the class before yours about animals and that live in a relationship together, that help each other. And this is an example of exactly the opposite. This is like, you know, like a tick that lives on an animal is a parasite, so it only takes from the animal that it's on. This thing is called a mistletoe, and it's a parasite. It's just like a tick, but a tick for trees. And I'm going to pick a piece for you, and I'm going to throw it down, and then when I get down there, I'll show you a little bit about it. Catch, Dave. Good.
Got it.
Just remember, everybody, that when you climb a tree, you've got to be very careful. And I'm going to be very careful when I come down, and hopefully I won't fall. Because it'll be very sore if I fall, won't it, Dave?
Yes, James.
And you're not first aid trained, are you?
Oh, not exactly.
Oh, dear. That will be very, very disastrous. Were I to fall down and you weren't first aid trained. Ooh-wee. I'm not quite as good as climbing trees as many of you are, of course, because I'm so old. How old are you, David?
24.
You are so young compared with me, but you're still so old compared with the kids we're talking to. I'm sure you're all very good at climbing trees. But please do be careful. Now this is going to be the very difficult part of climbing out of this tree. And one thing, just before I climb out the tree, you will have seen the bark falling off. See, it comes off like this. And what you'll notice is that it comes off in these chips. And we saw that elephant that had pushed over the tree, or we saw the tree that had been pushed over by the elephants. And these pieces of bark are very good for the elephants to eat. But the tree is very clever because the bark comes off in these little chips. It doesn't come off in big sections. So even if an elephant comes to eat the bark of the tree, it can't hurt the tree too much because it can't take too much bark at one time. It's a very clever tree, this. Now, David?
You're going to have to jump, James.
You think I'm going to have to jump?
Yep.
Okay. The problem with jumping from here, David, is that there's a big piece of hyena dung underneath the tree. And I don't want to land in hyena dung, everybody. Because hyena dung is very, very smelly.
Well done, James.
I missed it. Let me show you. I'll just show you this piece of hyena dung if I can pick it up with a stick. Oh, David, I don't know that I can get it. Hang on. 1 second. Need a very sharp stick to get it. Here it comes. No. There we go. Okay, here we go.
All the kids said you should jump, so I'm glad you did.
Oh, see that, everybody? This is hyena dung. That means it's the poo of a hyena. And it's green like this because it's quite fresh, so it doesn't smell very nice at all. But one day it's going to turn white, because what do hyenas eat? They eat bones, lots of bones. And bones have something in them called calcium, and that's why you've got to have calcium in your bones to make them white. And when calcium comes out, when it's digested, it's green. But when it sits in the sun for too long, it becomes white. So that's that. Disgusting. Now I want to quickly show you the mistletoe. Here's a leaf that fell off. And plug myself back in case you have any questions. Oh, I'm quite exhausted, David. Thank you. Right, here's the mistletoe, everybody. Now, much like many of the trees out here, it loses its leaves during the winter time. And we're going into winter. You know that you're going into summer, you lucky people. But we're going into winter, and this is a piece of mistletoe. And what it makes is a fruit. And I was hoping to find a fruit, but there wasn't any fruit there. And the fruit is very, very sticky. So you pick the fruit and you chew it up like chewing gum. It's not very tasty, but then you can make it like a sticky mesh, like chewing gum. And you can, if you live out here in the bush and you want to catch a bird to eat, then you can wrap it around a branch and hopefully a bird will come and sit. And when a bird sits on the branch like that, it's unable to move its feet anymore, gets stuck, and then you can eat it. But only if you're really, really hungry. Right. There we go. Okay. Wonderful, everybody. That was the mistletoe, and many of you will know it from Christmas time. It'll be a different kind of mistletoe where you are in the world, but that's our mistletoe here. And Hazel, you want to know if there are any kinds of plants out here that we use that are perhaps bad for the area, that harm the local plants that we get rid of. There are a few, Hazel, and we have a very important group of people called Working for Water, and Working for Water is a group of government employees, and they come and they pull out the plants like that. There are not too many in this area, but there are 1 or 2 that we have to be a little bit careful of. You turn my hat around. There we go. And Reagan, yes, you can eat the fruit of the mistletoe, absolutely. It just doesn't taste very nice, and it's very, very, very sticky. It's amazing. I'm sad we couldn't get any. I think we only find the fruits, of course, at the beginning of the summertime, and we're now right at the opposite end of the year from when we would normally have the fruits of the mistletoe. It's such fun to climb trees. I really enjoy it, and I hope that where you are, you climb trees, and I hope you keep doing it for as long as I've been around in the world. You'll maybe be a little bit better at it than me, though. You see, I wasn't quite as good as a monkey in that tree. Okay, now I'm going to show you something quite special. We just want to quickly show you the mountains here, everybody, and then we'll go back to Sam, who's got something equally special to show you. Now, you've got in the United States, where you are, to the west of where you live is, of course, the Appalachian Mountain Range, if I'm not mistaken, and to the west of that, the even more famous Rocky Mountain Range. And we, in South Africa, this is our most famous mountain range. You can see in the distance there, that's called the Drakensberg. And the Drakensberg means the dragon's back. And that's because of the peaks that it has. It's not nearly as big. It's about as bit like your Appalachians. It's not nearly as big as the Rockies, but it's about the same as the Appalachians. Interesting, hey? Right, let's go across and see what my old friend Sam has got to show you.
So we have found a community spider nest over here. If you have a look here, you can kind of see, I'm not sure if you would be able to see it from that distance, but there are a number of spiders that are around here. And I'm just looking to see if I can see some more. There should be. I can see a number of different flies in this community spider nest. And you can think how strong these spiders' nests must be with the wind. The wind is blowing quite significantly, and these nests really hold together. They're very, very strong. So it's the only community spider nest, which means it's not just one spider, there's more than one. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've already counted 5 of them here, and they're just crawling around the nest. And I've seen, I don't know if you can see it from there, but you can just see them crawling if you look closely. And there's also some dead flies. You can just imagine all sorts of insects fly into this, they get stuck, and then it's a hard time for them in there. But it's an incredible sized nest for spiders. I genuinely enjoy looking at a spider. So we've been looking for all types of spiders this afternoon. Small, big. I don't know if we'll be able to find some more this afternoon. Keep an eye out to see if you see something jumping around. We've been looking for a few of them, so we found one. I know there's another one. Not sure what it's called or if we'll be able to see it, but pay attention. It might be there. Sometimes I see it crawling along my car. I just don't know where it comes from. But hopefully we'll see what happens. Alright, let me just get... Okay, let's go find that other spider. Rebecca just told me there was a spider. Where was the spider? Is it underneath Mr. Elephant? No, there's no spider there. Come on, Rebecca, I didn't see a spider. I can see a bird though, there's a bird there. There goes a starling, it's a beautiful looking starling. But I'm going to keep looking for this spider, don't you worry. See if I can find him. Drew would like to know, are there many poisonous spiders? Yes, Drew, there's quite a few of them out here. I'll see if we can find one. It's not very easy to find the poisonous spiders, especially when you're driving. So Drew, if you have a look and watch some of our safaris in the morning, it's not very easy for you to see them, but we sometimes find spiders on foot, and not on foot, on foot. I meant to say foot, not sput. But there are some very, very cool spiders, and I believe that the spider that's on this car could be poisonous. I don't know, so I have to be quite careful of the spider jumping around. But we're about to... What do you mean? Have you guys seen this spider? You just said it's cute. What? Why am I not involved in the story of the spider? This is not fair. Okay, so we're coming towards the big open areas. The buffaloes that we just saw now, which were the big African buffalo, is now walking through this thicket here to our right. So maybe we'll see them come back out. And we're just going to go look through the plains, which is the open areas here, to see if there might be a cheetah, a lion, a leopard. Oh, there's a big elephant. In the distance there, if you look there, you'll see an elephant. So we're going to have another one. That is the biggest elephant I've seen this afternoon or today. And I've seen quite a few elephants. This morning drive, I saw so many elephants. Let's go and have a look at that big elephant. Isn't that exciting? Yo, he is massive. Trinity, I think I didn't quite understand that question. I think something, what makes it thick? What makes that spider web so... Oh, stick. Oh, okay, yeah, so that's a good question. That's a very good question. They've got a substance in their stomachs when they make that web that makes a very, very sticky substance. I'm not sure what that substance is called, but it helps make that insect stick. Very, very good question. But at the moment, let's have a look at this big elephant. He is incredibly big. Wow. See how comfortable he is with us. I think for the time being, let's just watch him for 2 minutes from this direction, just to show him that we're not giving him a hard time. Look how big those tusks are. He is a very, very big elephant. Look at how he breaks the branches there. So he's breaking it with his trunk. So he does many, many different things with that trunk. Like we use our hands for all sorts of stuff, from making things. The elephant needs to eat its food by wrapping that trunk around some branches, breaking them, and putting it in its mouth. Look at that. So that's a good question, Avery. I think you asked what would happen to the plants if there were overpopulation of elephants. Well, it can be a problem in some places because the elephants will eat a lot of the plants out here. But sometimes that's good because the elephants will help knock down some trees and create these big open areas. That's why we have open areas like this. And that's also to do with soil type. So soils and elephants will make big open areas. But this is not the only elephant that I can see. If you look in the distance there's some more elephants. We are very lucky. We've seen a lot of buffaloes, and now we're seeing quite a few elephants. So that is what you call a family or a breeding herd of elephants. You can see the youngster in there. So you were with some elephants. Well, the other school, the other class was with some elephants earlier. So we are lucky to see another group of elephants. And that group there will consist as also females and calves. Anna would like to know when are the elephants most active. So they're active both day and night, but generally mostly through the day. So you'll see them grazing, feeding, browsing. Browsing means to eat the leaves off trees. So they don't only eat the grasses, they like to eat the leaves off the tree. So they graze and browse up to 22 hours a day. So they don't sleep very much, they eat a lot. They need to just eat their body weight sometimes in one day. Alyssa would like to know what it's like when two elephant breeding herds meet each other. It can be quite a conflict sometimes. Sometimes it's a good social interaction between elephants. Sometimes there's conflict. It depends really on the dominance of the males, when the males are feeling like they are in an angry place. So if you have a look at this elephant, you can see some liquid coming out of the face there. So if you look just next to the eye there to the left, so that's from a gland, and it secretes some things, and that's when an elephant is in quite an angry, he can be angry when he's in this place. It's hormones. It's when his hormones are working. And he can be quite angry. So when bulls are going through this together, they can create quite a lot of conflict, especially when two different family groups are meeting each other. So if you ever see two different families of elephants with two different kind of marks of wetness next to their faces, they might get angry with each other. So one of you are asking, why is there a hole in the elephant's ear? Kayla is asking that. Kayla, that hole could have developed because of some of the thorns that, a lot of the trees out here are quite thorny. So when the elephants come across these big thorny trees, they sometimes get their ears, they can get a hole in their ears because of that. But it could also be because of fights that they have with other elephants, and the tusks that they fight against might create more holes. So you look at those tusks, they can be quite sharp at the end there, and they're very, very big. Una would like to know how big an elephant herd can get to. Well, they can get up to 20 to 30. So around 20 to 30 the elephant breeding herds can get. 30 is quite large, but generally they'll be around 20. So that's how big they can get. So the one that we saw in the distance there is probably around 7 or 8. Jesse, that is a fantastic question. You would like to know how they are communicating with each other. Well, they can hear each other at a much lower level than what we can. So they can communicate through sounds that they make, and it's much. Sometimes we can hardly hear it. Much less audible. Audio means that we can't hear it as well. They communicate very, very, very softly, and also they communicate through touch. So sometimes they'll touch each other and just smell each other, and just that's the way in which they'll communicate sometimes. So that's a very good question from you. Ava would like to know how many babies an elephant can have at a time. So it's generally around one elephant calf at a time, and that is around the times of the year when it's raining. So November is the sort of time that an elephant will have a youngster, and that is because that's when it's raining the most, and that's when the grasses will be nice, thick and green. The trees will have lots of leaves in it, and the youngster has a lot of food to feed on. So most of the time, elephants like to have their youngsters around that time of the year, but you will find that they have youngsters at any time of the year. And that's like some of the other antelope that we get here, such as the impala, which hopefully we can show you what an impala looks like. They like to have their babies in November during the rainy season as well. Ooh, sorry about that. I made it shake. Alyssa is asking if we see an injured, I think that's a question, if we see an injured elephant, would we help it? No, Alyssa, we wouldn't help it purely because it's not our position to help animals. We sometimes get that feeling that we have to help the animals, but they're actually very able to help themselves, and sometimes the elephants will help each other in situations that are quite tough at times. So let's have a look at this elephant. So we just observe the natural world and try to understand as best as we can what it likes to do. That's a beautiful picture. Have a look at that. So I haven't actually introduced the elephant that sits in the front of my car. So while we look at that elephant, we can quickly come back and say hello to Elvis. So hello, this is Elvis over here. And Elvis is the elephant that I like to take around the bush with me. He's a really good friend of mine, and he helps me make decisions. But that elephant coming into the distance there is quite remarkably big. He is huge. Will's asking about emotions. Can you tell what the different emotions are when you come across elephants? And that's also a very good question. Wow, you guys are asking some great questions this afternoon. Elephants will display, when we are around them, elephants will give you different types of emotions showing what mood they're in. So when an elephant is angry with us, it'll often shake its ears, shake its trunk, and it's quite uncomfortable with you being around it. So it's very, very important for you to see and notice and empathize. So empathy means to kind of feel the emotions of another being, feel what might another animal be experiencing. So when we look at the elephant and we see it getting angry or something like that, then we must try and be more aware of ourselves out here in the bush if we are walking. So we've had 2 drives this afternoon. It's been very exciting. We've seen 2 big breeding herds of both elephants and buffalo. So it's been an exciting afternoon. Just one thing, don't just go touching plants that have thorns on them, because it's quite dangerous. You might hurt yourself. And don't just eat plants, because they might have some poisonous in them. So just be careful when going out into your bush, but learn about it. It's always exciting. Go out into your backyard, learn some of your plants. Ask an adult, ask your parents or your teachers, what kind of plant is this? Can I eat this berry? Don't just eat the berry. So those are just a few things. We just want to say goodbye to you all and say goodbye to the little thumb. How exciting was he? Eh? So we found that little spider that was jumping. Otherwise, it's been fantastic. Let's go off to James. Enjoy the rest of your morning wherever you are.
Parking here and clearing, watching some very interesting impala interactions. And the males are still fighting with each other. You can see there they're still very unhappy with each other. Any problem with the audio there, David?
Slight problem.
Slight problem. Anything now?
We're good.
Right, we should be okay now. Rebecca, how's that? Any sound? Oh, good. What a relief. Everybody, I shall beat David with a thorny stick as soon as we're next offline. Right, so those impala have now disappeared. They were having a bit of a rut around the place, and I think they're wasting their time. I'm pretty sure the mating has probably been and gone now. But there are some little dwarf mongoose up ahead. There's a dam where I think there might be some elephants having a drink. So it's all just a rather peaceful afternoon going on here now. Let's go around the corner and have a look-see. Now, where are these dwarf mongooses? I saw them knocking about here.
Jack's coming.
Seem to have absconded, but what I do want to show you while I look for them, if you look at that bird there, that, everybody, is the greater blue-eared glossy starling, so identified from its very close relative, the Cape glossy starling, by its call. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear them calling again. You hear that? I don't think the final control can hear, but you can maybe hear. Can you hear that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can hear them. Alrighty, let's go around the corner. There are some elephants. Oh, a big herd of elephants coming down towards Sydney's dam. Lake Sydney. There we are. That's very nice. Look at that. Now, Dean and Nelspruit, you've heard that elephants have... You asked a question earlier about elephants' 3 eyelids. You said they've got 3 eyelids, and you've heard that they are therefore able to keep their eyes open underwater like crocodiles. Dean, I have to say, I think that sounds a fairly tall story. They swim to keep cool. That's why elephants swim. They also swim for pleasure, I think, sometimes. But they don't swim for any other reason than that. And there are many, many animals that swim to keep cool, many of them getting on with it very easily, the hippo being one very good example, without a complicated set of crocodilian eyelids. So, Dean, I'm going to say that I don't think that it is the case. Jeepers, look at that. There's another elephant there. The closest one to us is also missing a piece of her trunk. And I don't think that's our normal half or third trunk female. No, it's not. It's a youngster. It's interesting. So Jamie had a half-trunk bull yesterday. We know our very favourite cow with her sort of third missing trunk. And there's a much younger one with a piece of trunk missing. It's a bit sad. But they actually get on with it just fine. They survive somehow. The animals out here are incredibly resilient. And just speaking of crocodiles with Dean there, I have seen crocodiles here. Some of you doubting Thomases don't believe me. But I have definitely seen at least one crocodile knocking about in this water. I don't see any at the moment. Isn't that a peaceful scene? That's the most peaceful scene you could ever hope to have in the bush. Elephants at sunset at a waterhole. Oh, Joe, you want to know where the ear canal is? You say, can you actually identify it? Absolutely you can, Joe. The ear canal is in front of the ear, so it's not behind that flap, it's in front of the flap in exactly the same way as your ear canal is just in front of the flap. And I mean, we need to get a little bit closer, but it's basically the very dark bit there where the ear is bending forward. That's the start of the ear canal, Joe. And it goes down into the middle of the ear from there. So in exactly the same way as your ear opening and canal is on the outside, so it is with the elephants. And they look very much at peace. One or two bulls at the back giving each other a few words, but the rest of them just having their evening snifter as they watch the sun descend down to the west. Of course, in England, it's only tea time now. It's not really snifter time at all. But the sun here is starting to go down. That's David artistically panning and tilting towards the sun in one fluid, smooth motion. Very nice, David. There we go. Oh, wow. It's still about 30 minutes from going down, but there's just below it, there's an impala, one of the ridiculous group of males to the right of that. He's the antelope. Keep going. A bit more. There he is. And he's just going, holding his tail out and showing how very big and tough he is. It's the most incongruous sound for an animal like that to make. I'm always astounded by it. You can hear possibly a few of them behind. Oh, perfectly sort of whale-like spray from the elephants there. It's just too lovely. Actually, I'm not laughing at your question. I'm just laughing at the noise these impala are making all around us. You say, do bulls go into must at a specific time of year? Actually, they don't. They can go into must at any time. They're not seasonal breeders at all, so the females go into estrus also at any time of year. And then they give birth, well, obviously 22 months after they've mated. But they don't go into must at any specific time of year. Just hold on 1 second, sorry. Go again, Tex. There's a lion, everybody. There's a lion, everyone. All right. I'm just going to quickly try and find out what's going on the Game Drive radio. Let's head across to Stam while I do that.
So we literally have not moved a muscle since you were last with us, just because we saw that sun dipping behind this beautiful tree here. And we have another group of elephants that are heading this way, so we've got some time to wait. But have a look, and let's just spend some time with the sun as it sets. It's another incredible day in the bush. There's an elephant that's just walking away from us now. It's the same elephant. But we we'll be patient for the next breeding herd that will come through a little bit later. What a beautiful shot by Brian Jabir, who's on camera this afternoon. And if you look out into the distance there are some more elephants that are here on Cheetah Plains this afternoon. And I truly love the plains. Every time I come here, there is something different. Even if there aren't any animals such as lions, leopards, or cheetah, or elephants, there are some incredible species of birds. And I know that James Richard has been asking to see some birds, but we've just bumped into two very big breeding herds of both buffalo and elephants that created such a magical sighting. So what we're going to do now is see if we can not only look for some birds as that elephant is leaving us, but we're also going to see if we can find Inkanyeni. And in the time being, James is with another elephant, so let's go and see how James is doing the Impala Rutter.
I'm afraid those elephants, everybody, are not elephants. The lions are not on Djuma, they're on Torchwood, no, on Buffelshoek. So we can't go there. I misheard Tax. I thought he was calling me. He was actually calling Lex. So the elephants are still here, having their drink, tossing water up in an artistic fashion into the setting sun, which is great fun for them. And this is quite a big herd. Let's count them. That sort of half-trunk elephant has got a very, very young calf with her, and he was just playing around when you left. And she's young, she's tiny. She's no more than sort of, I don't think she can be more than 13 or 14 years old, which is very young. And Sarah, you want to know how old I think that tiny elephant is? I think under a year. If you look carefully, you can see there, although we're not that close, you can see that that little elephant will be able to fit under her belly. Now, she's only about 12 or 13 years old, and that elephant can still fit under her belly, and so I'd say probably no more than 3 months. Maybe 4 or 5, but I think around 3. That's fairly non-committal, I know, but at this distance, I'm afraid I can't be any more committal than that. The general rule of thumb, though, is that an elephant can fit under its mother's belly until the baby is a year old. Now, maybe she's a little bit older. She's just got small trunks. That's grief. She's got small tusks. But she might be a little bit older than that. And she's certainly still a teenager. It's perfectly normal. But I just think it's interesting that she's, A, lost her trunk, and B, still very successfully, obviously, raising a little calf. The much, much older cow now moving off towards the back of the herd. Very old. You can see its long, thin tusks moving slowly. Yes, that's Grandma. I'm sure she's the matriarch of this herd. Look at her moving towards those bulls that are having a little bit of a fight. Look at this. Look at that. So, James Richards and Muji, you have confirmed what Dee suspected and I had never heard of. An elephant does indeed have a third eyelid, which is very similar, as Dean said, to the nictitating membrane of a crocodile. And the nictitating membrane of the crocodile, of course, does protect its eyes from water and from, whoa, incoming, everybody, take cover. Which it does, excuse me. It's a game-counting helicopter, and the elephants are off. Look, look, look. They don't like that at all. I'm sure they're just counting the elephants there, everyone. 13 of them. Well done, Dave. In fact, they're not counting. It's probably going off to a camp somewhere. Nice to arrive in your own private helicopter. Not so nice if you happen to be the elephants. Oh, well, let's put paid to that sighting. That was fun. Right. So, it does have an eyelid, and it protected against, apparently, when they're feeding and dust bathing. That's a very important one, obviously. We often see them throwing dust at their eyes, and I've often thought to myself, surely that must get in the eye and must be very sore. So, Dean, thank you very much. You've taught me something brand new today, as you have James, Richard, and Muji. This, of course, is the wonder of doing this job. You teach me as much as I teach you. So it's very obvious in a crocodile. I mean, you can actually see the thing going across the eye and opening out again, and it's called a nictitating membrane. And that is, it's like a set of goggles when they're swimming in the water. Look how close we are to these impalas. Shining very pretty chestnut in the sun. Jack, you worried about how those elephants have lost their trunks and how that one specifically? I don't know, Jack. It could be anything from a crocodile when it was little, drinking in the water, crocodile grabbing it. It could be a hyena or a lion that grabbed it when it was very little. It could also be a snare. And I mean, there is a poaching issue in this area, and there are many, many very, very poor people living on the sides of the reserve. And sometimes they do put up snares to catch things like these impala in order to feed their families. And sometimes the unintended consequence of that is an elephant that will get a wire snare caught around its trunk. It is possible that that's what it is. Look at these males. You can hear them all going chasing each other, chasing the females. This is the most ridiculous sound. Amazing. And the females all, it's so reminiscent of watching males posturing or men posturing to each other and women going, oh, God, look at that, look, here we go again. And they just get on feeding or having a drink or whatever it is that they're doing. While the males, oh, look at that. Dressage impala. Probably been chasing each other around this clearing for all day long. They're not eating. You can see all the females trying to eat. There's a duiker coming through the middle of the herd. Can you see that? That's him. Yeah, that's great. I think I'm not going to hang around here. And all the impala females walking over to watch the duiker. The duiker is now making off at great speed. It's fascinating. It's almost like they don't know what she was. So these males, of course, not concentrating on anything other than each other and on herding females. The females are eating, and you can see very easily how the males must be losing condition. They're certainly not eating. You know, just the easiest possible target for something like a leopard. Alrighty, let's move on. Let's press on from here. I think our plan from here will be to go all towards the... What was that? Sorry, you're going to have to...
Bad signal.
Bad signal.
So we are now on the track for Nkanyeni. This is where her territory is. She has a female, well, sorry, she is a female leopard. Sorry about the signal loss from James. He's going through quite a thick area, but just while we're here, have a look at the sun through the trees there. Isn't that beautiful? We've just seen one sunset view. I just thought, you know what, that looks so beautiful with those clouds in the distance as well, so it's just fantastic. And while we have a look at that, I'm also just looking around to see if Nkanyeni's tracks are anywhere. Let me just switch off the vehicle. The sound can be quite loud sometimes. So there's all sorts of triggers to be able to find a leopard out here. Not only tracks on the ground, but the alarm calls, such as monkeys making a noise, or baboons, or squirrels, or the barks of nyala or bushbuck, kudus. So there doesn't seem to be any alarm calls. This is where I saw her for the first time. I so admire her beauty. She is one of the most beautiful leopards I've ever seen. So I hope to see her again. I really, really hope so. But we'll track and go through this area quite slowly, see what we might be able to find. If I see a jackal, I'm going to be very, very happy. Ashley is talking about vitamins and the sun, and how the sun gives us vitamin D. Ashley, you're asking if elephants, or not elephants, just animals in general, will get vitamin D from the sun. Yeah, I'm sure they do. You know, I think most species get vitamin D, as we need vitamin D just to all sorts of. I think vitamin D gives us some of the what's that name? Serotonin. I think it's serotonin. Yes, that gives us happiness. Sun brings us happiness. So when you were looking at that sunset, maybe that brought you a little bit of happiness. Not only happiness, but you've got to feel the sun. So if you can, you're going outdoors after drive today, have a look for the sun and get some sun on that skin. Not too much, of course. Be careful of the sun, it can burn you. Oh, this is exciting. We've got some animals through the thicket here. We're going to go quite slowly as we can see them. There we go. I'm just going to do that with that sun in the background there. And Brian can see what we can see. So those are some more plains game. Wildebeest. Isn't that awesome? There's two youngsters there with a wildebeest. This is quite a big herd of wildebeest. You don't often see so many. So now that we've seen them, we don't need to hide from them. They're not that nervous of our vehicles. So we can just go and view them now. Just thought it would be quite cool to see them through that thicket with the sun going down in the background. Very, very beautiful. So we've seen, oh no ways, this is exciting, guys. Not only do we have wildebeest, but we've got something quite similar. It likes to move around with wildebeest. What do you think likes to graze with the wildebeest? It's quite interesting colors, black and white. You guessed it, the zebra. So we've got a dazzle of zebra, quite a few of them, just next to the wildebeest. I'm going to go in very, very slowly here. Oh, there's a young fowl there. So just from a distance, let's view them. See if you can see that young zebra. So this is what as I said, you call it this a dazzle. It's a dazzle of zebra. So the zebra like to eat the big, thicker grasses. You can see the youngster there, just second to the front. I'm going to get in a position where you can see it. It really looks so cute. So I don't need to be hiding so far from them. Let's go a little bit closer to them and we can view them from a distance here. There we go. There you can see the youngster quite clearly next to the wildebeest there. Wow, isn't that cool? So you've got a wildebeest there and a zebra. So as I said, the zebra like to eat the thicker, bulkier grasses, and the wildebeest like to eat the shorter grasses. So the wildebeest like to walk behind the zebra after they've grazed the bulky grasses. So that's what we call ecosystem succession. Incredible. And there goes the sun as we watch this. Let's get a backdrop of that sun with the zebra and the wildebeest, and then that will just make our day. Amazing. Can't quite see everything, but you'll get to see that sun going down, and you know those zebra and those giraffes are in the open area there. What a fantastic afternoon. We've seen so many different animals. So let's watch it go down. And think about what are you so grateful about what you had today, what you've had in the last few days, as we watch the sun go down. What a magical sunset that was. Out on Cheetah Plains, those clouds just create such a dramatic scene out here on the plains with those trees in the background. Fantastic sunset. Let's go and have a little bit more of a look at what we had there. I just want to go on the radio very quickly. I see another vehicle. Station on Cheetah Plains. Do you copy? Come in for Sam. So, no one's replying to my message there, but I see another vehicle in front of me. So maybe they've seen something. Quite interested to see what they might have seen. Just go slowly. Excuse me for a second while I go a little bit closer. I know you can't get a good shot of them at the moment, Brian. I'll just go around and maybe view what this other vehicle might be seeing as we come around this corner. So we're coming back to the zebra and those wildebeest. Excuse this for a second. So I'm just having a look to see what might have been seen down here. Could very well be something sitting there. Can't see anything. Can you, Brian? So let's just go towards the wonderful looking zebra and wildebeest that are just in front of us. There they are, sitting up in front of us. So these animals like the open areas, especially at night time. So at night time you'll often find the zebra and the wildebeest and the giraffe come to these big open areas, and by doing that they are putting themselves in a position where they'll most likely be able to see a predator. So if they were in those thick bushes around them in the distance there, they wouldn't be able to see the predator, such as the lion and the leopard as well. So here they have the opportunity to look in all the different directions. Have a look at that one. That one ran after the youngster there. Look like they're having a little bit of play. So more eyes means more protection out here in the bush. I can't believe how many animals we've seen on Cheetah Plains this afternoon. We've seen, look how big this group of zebra are. There must be at least 20 here. 15 to 20 zebra. I'm just getting another vehicle that's going to come by. I just want to ask him what he might have seen. While I ask them, let's go see how James is doing on the other side of the reserve.
We've come towards Buffelshoek Dam, everybody, and yet again there are more elephants. And we're just going to ease past 2 young bulls here. There's one. Just a little bit nervous of us, and I know that Sam was around here with Dave and this morning, and there were some fairly upset elephants. Let's just ease our way past here and try not to start the engine. And there we'll get a nice view of this young bull. Definitely watching us. Ooh, he's been very strong by breaking this tree. He'll push over much bigger trees in his life. That's a big little knobthorn tree. It's a knobthorn sapling that unfortunately is not going to maintain its sort of physique that it has now. It's going to have to adapt like so many of its kin. Isn't that nice? Slightly squaff teeth there. In line for some orthodontics there, Dave. Rejected his knobthorn, moving on to another knobthorn. Now, of course, those trees will be talking to each other, outlandish as that sounds. They will be exuding pheromones, shouting danger, danger, danger in much the same way that an impala does. So the elephant will not be able to eat all of the trees in that one area. Now, Gail in Rhode Island, you ask a fascinating question about basically the ethnobotany, if you like, of animals and whether they self-medicate. Do they know about plants that can help them, and would they use those certain plants even if they knew it might make them sick, for example, they might make them throw up. Well, the first thing to know about a hindgut fermenting animal like this is that they really do struggle to throw up. In fact, I don't think that they can. Certainly that's why a horse gets a very common disease or very common complaint called colic. It's because they are unable to vomit. So I don't think that animals that are not ruminants are actually able to vomit at all. But, I mean herbivores, not all animals. But that said, Gail, I think that there are definitely indications that elephants specifically are able to self-medicate. Oh, isn't that a wonderful shot? Self-medicate using a variety of trees that I think, quite possibly, and this is totally unproven, this is purely my conjecture. Look at this. This is why an elephant is a keystone species, everybody. Modifying the shape of the vegetation profoundly. Oh, that's great. Look at the colors there. So, Gail, I think elephants know how to self-medicate. I think they get taught by the matriarch, and the older elephants within the herd, and they then pass that information on, obviously, to younger generations. I've certainly seen elephants selecting very specific plants, depending on the time of year. Obviously, the time of year does have quite a lot to do with it. So he just bent that tree a bit. Now he's picking off the bits that he can reach slightly more easily. But that tree is having an awful time. It's fantastic. I can hear the rest of the herd sort of off to the western side. Hello, Panky. Panky. You've heard that elephants don't like oxpeckers. You're absolutely right, they don't. And what do they do about the ticks? Well, Panky, I read the other day, much the same as you heard, that elephants don't like oxpeckers. They don't get nearly as many ticks on them as other animals because they don't have sweat glands. Now, that means, of course, that the ticks probably aren't as attracted to them. The ticks can't get as much nutrition, and they've got very, very thick skin as well. And those things combined mean that the ticks are just not very common on elephants. And you can see that. I mean, we look at elephants' skin in great detail very often, and we very, very seldom see any kind of ticks on them. The exceptions will be where there are obvious openings, like at the bottom. And we saw an elephant the other day that looked like it had had its tail bitten off by a number of ticks. And so I think that's what happened there. But they don't tolerate oxpeckers, apparently. But I think far more than that. I just don't think the ticks are able to get at them in the same way that they can the buffalo or the nyala or impala or wildebeest or other animals like that. And certainly I found ticks in the mud where rhino had been wallowing. So rhino will sometimes wallow, then they'll go off and they'll scratch themselves when the mud is dry on trees, and you can actually find the ticks embedded in that mud. But I've never seen that with elephants. I don't know if you were with us for the school drive, but I described how the bark of a marula tree breaks off in chips. And this ball is just showing you that the acacias have not managed to adapt that cleverly. You can see it's coming off in strips, and so it's much easier for an elephant to debark an acacia tree than it is for it to debark a marula tree. Mary Ellen, a nice one from you. Do elephants have favorite trees to push over? I don't think it's so much as favorite trees to push over, Mary Ellen. I think it's got largely to do with favorite trees to eat. Knobthorns, especially when they produce their flowers in September time, they get hammered. They often get pushed over. I think they're easier to push over. Their leaves are nutritious, and so they get pushed over a lot more than some of the other trees do. And certainly some of the bigger trees are more bendy. They don't kind of snap in the same way that the knobthorn trees do. Darlene, you want to know about the smell of elephants, and of course one of the most important senses we have out here is our smell, and one of the most wonderful things about living in an area like this is the different kinds of fresh, clean smells that you get. And Darlene, an elephant definitely has a smell. You can smell them when you're in the middle of a herd. They smell sort of, I mean, you all know what horses smell like, so they smell a little bit like that. Slightly sweeter than that, though, if you know what I mean. So it's a slightly sweeter sort of leathery smell. It's like a really, really weak version of that urine that drips out of a musk bull. But they do have a smell. It's a subtle, leathery kind of elephantine smell. And there's that eye. There, you saw the third membrane. Did you see that? Watch. Watch him blink. Dean, watch. I hope you're watching still. You've taught me something so special today. I don't know if you saw that, everybody, but that third membrane came moving across the eye, the third eyelid. Oh, come on, do it again for us. Oh, that's so great to have seen. I don't know if you saw that, everyone, but that was really special for me. It's not the most earth-shattering discovery in the world, of course, but I found it fascinating.
That's brilliant. I can't believe I've never noticed that before. Thank you, Dean. And thank you, James, Richard, of course, as well. And Muj. Brilliant stuff.
All right, let's head on to the waterhole. We're just down there. Hello, Frank. Sorry, I'm not beating myself, self-flagellating. I'm trying to get rid of flies, endless plethora of flies. Frank, I've spoken about smell and I've spoken about sight and hearing today, and you want to know what the most important sense is for an animal out here in order to avoid danger, sight, smell, or hearing. Frank, let's just stop over here. There's a hippopotamus, which I think Sam showed you earlier today. I was kind of hoping a lion might pop out here. Might still. Frank, you'll find that they're all equally as important, and it will depend very much on the species. You'll find the larger the species, probably the less they rely on their eyes. I'm just saying that because I know rhino have pretty bad eyesight, but elephants and buffalo have pretty good eyesight. I think the thicker the bush, the more they will rely on their ears. So we know that kudu and nyala and bushbuck have got outlandishly sized ears, for their size of body. So that's very important for them. But they still have very good ears, at least eyes. And animals that live in the clearings will have perhaps proportionately better eyes. But they all rely on smell, and they can all smell infinitely better than we can. And if you're viewing animals on foot, the first thing you do, rather than check if they can see you or hear you, is whether they can smell you. And you do that by sort of testing the wind, basically. And even if there's the slightest breeze that is almost undetectable to us, if you dab a bit of ash in the air, you can see the air moving. And that is often enough for an animal to pick you up and smell your human scent. So we had a favourite time of the day this morning, just before the sun came up, and now my second favourite time of the day, just after the sun has gone down. And the sound of that chopper going again, I'm not sure what it's doing. And there are some Egyptian geese. Now these two geese, if they're the same ones, of course, are the worst parents of Juma. They lost all 7. In fact, I think they lost 2 clutches of little goslings. They were all around Christmas time, so they had a dreadful holiday season last year. And with any luck, they'll do a bit better this time round. Right, well, Taxon has just arrived here. I'm sure he and his guests are going to have a little sundowner. While they do that, we'll move on and give them some privacy here at the dam and go and find what else we can. There you can see him just underneath the torchwood tree at the end of the dam. Hello, Lee Pad. Met you here the other day. Thank you for your question. Glad you're still watching. You want to know why we don't ever see crocodiles here. We do, you know. There have been crocodiles in this very dam. There were crocodiles in Bivelshoek Dam, I promise. Not Bivelshoek Dam, Sydney's dam, I promise. I saw a couple there. And you will find from time to time they come through here. But they won't be resident because this isn't a sort of great flowing river, which of course is where most crocodiles will live. So there are many in the Sand River, many in the Sabi River, just to the south of that. But this is not ideal habitat. That was a very cross Natal Franklin. Just settled in the tree, and then we came past, and now we've really made it angry. So Leapad, yes, you do get crocodiles here, just not that many. Hello, Anne. You said that I say water hole and Sam says watering hole, and is there a difference? No, there's no difference at all, Anne. It's exactly the same thing. And we use the term dam, we use the term pan. Those are different things. A dam obviously is a man-made waterhole, and we use the term lake when I'm being facetious about the tiny puddles that we term waterholes. But normally, yes, waterhole and watering hole is an all-encompassing word, either of them, for any kind of place where an animal can come and get water. We'll head round the corner here and see if we can't pick up some tracks of lions, otherwise the night creatures. Let me turn on some lighting here. There we go. Oh, watch out, David. Branch, flies, so many dangers out here. The sun has now set. And it's incredible this time of the year how fast the temperature begins to drop. Now, Ashley, as I said, the temperature is dropping and the winter is coming upon us. You want to know what's the outlook for winter water-wise? Well, of course, long-term weather predictions are 99% useless because there are so many variables in play that it's almost impossible to understand them all. And one change in variable can result in a completely skewed prediction. So we don't know what the weather outlook for winter is. As far as water goes, you say, did we have enough rain this year? We had very little rain this year. We probably had a third of what we normally do. Probably only about 8 inches or so, maybe 10 inches, which is not a lot. And so the winter, which is our dry season, is looking pretty bleak. I don't think we're going to have a very easy time of it. Well, I mean, as humans, we'll probably be okay, but I think the animals, unless we get winter rain, are going to really struggle, and I don't see why we should get winter rain. But we might. We had some very strange rain the other day. And I have been around here when it's rained in July. A bit of a fright there. A drongo flew up out of the bushes. Oh, what a nice question from John. Hello, John. John, you say, why is it that all the largest animals in the world are grazers and browsers? John, I think it's simply a function of the fact that there's much more for them to eat. In order to maintain, so the biggest carnivores that ever lived, I think, were the saber-toothed cat, well, other than the tyrannosaurs and the dinosaurs, but the biggest carnivorous mammals that lived were the saber-toothed cats. And I think you'll find that they probably were about twice the size of a modern-day tiger. So that's probably close to 700 kilograms for a really big one. And that in pounds is about 2,000 pounds. But what you do find is that at the same time that they were around, there were a lot more, even bigger, sort of large-scale herbivores, different kinds of rhinos, the mammoths we know. There were lots of mammoths. So there were much bigger herbivores for them to eat. They've all gone extinct now. And as the size of the herbivores has gone down, so the size of the carnivores has gone down. Now, I think it's simply a function of the fact that there is much more out here to feed a very large herbivore than there would be a large carnivore. If there was a very large carnivore, say, still the size of a saber-toothed cat now, it would have to eat everything out here. And so it would very quickly die out because there simply wouldn't be enough for it to eat. And so it's just like a sort of predator-prey balance and relationship where the number of prey determine the number of predators. And so I think you'll find that the size of the prey determines the size of the predators. Does that make sense, Don? Haven't thought about that before. That's really good. Thank you. Right, it's quite dark now. And while we try and figure out what's going on out here, let's head across to Sam Wise and see where he is.
Welcome back. Hope James was fun and entertaining. We really wanted to see a jackal this afternoon. Didn't quite see it. I told Brian if we saw a jackal, I would dance in front of the vehicle, do handstands, and go a little bit crazy. But we didn't manage to find one today, so I'm quite glad and also not glad, because I really want to see a jackal. So I don't know how I'm feeling right now, but anyway, we'll see a jackal one day. But we're leaving Cheetah Plains, and you know, I say it again, Cheetah Plains is an amazing place to come to. It's the open areas. We had elephants, we had zebra, we had wildebeest in their great numbers, and watching them grazing, their ecology a bit more. It's fascinating to learn a little bit more about another piece of land. It's just a little bit different and tells a bit of a different story than the one that we are seeing. So we are leaving in 8 minutes. Well, it'll take us 5 minutes to leave Cheetah Plains, and then we're off to Djuma, where we would like to do a star talk this evening. Maybe have a look at some of those stars that are coming out. Potentially Orion. I think there might be something in the trees here. Hold on, I thought I saw a bush baby. So it was in this tree. Let's have a look. Oh, I think he might have just jumped out. I'd love to see a bush baby. I know that we've seen quite a few lately, and since being with that bush baby, maybe I should show you quickly after I let this vehicle come past, because I'm blocking up the way here. So let's just help other people. Ooh, sorry, I'm full. There we go. There we go, more.
Hello, how are you? Good.
But we saw some incredible footage of zebra and wildebeest and big herds of elephants that are on the plains. Yes, so it was really nice. I was trying to contact on channel 3. Can I just see for a second if you can...
You can try, press the button.
Can I say something?
It's working.
Good afternoon, Sessions. This is Sam from WildEarth. Do you copy?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, just while we're doing this and we try and organize some of the radio stations here in Cheetah Plains, let's go and see how James is doing on the other property.
There's some zebra up ahead, everybody. We're not going to see them very well in the dark, but we'll have a quick look. It's not quite dark yet, so we can look. I'm just going to turn the light off because I don't want to blind them. Now, you're a predator. You're a lion. Pretend. I know you're not really a lion, but you pretend lion. Look at the way the stripes move through the bush now in this dim light. And see how even with the level of detail that we are able to see, it's quite difficult, I find, to pick a direction as to where those zebra are going. And I think if you're moving very quickly in this light and you don't see in the same detail that we do, even if you do see in better colors, at least in greater contrast, like the predators do, I think this is really quite difficult to see. So that's why I don't think we just don't see that many zebra kills here. There is the evening star, which I don't... Well, we might be able to show you this star with this camera. So, I know Sam was asking about doing the stars. We don't have the right camera for it, I'm afraid. That is Jupiter over there, and that's why it's so bright. And oh yeah, we're not going to see the moons with this camera.
Not quite.
Not quite. Not even close. And there's the moon, the waxing moon. I imagine it will be full in about 2 weeks' time, maybe. No, before that. Probably 10 days. There we go. I'm afraid that's all the stars that this camera will be able to do. There we go. And we will definitely do more and more stars as the darkness comes upon us earlier and earlier as we go towards the winter. And there's some lovely stories about the stars from around the world, which I shall try and learn. Not that many local stories, which is interesting. Zoe, what a lovely question from you. We were talking about trying to get away from predators and which senses are the most important. And your question is, do any animals ever play dead to get away from predators? Yes, they do. There are a couple of snake species, especially out here, that will what we call feign death. One of them is called a rinkhals, and a rinkhals is a sort of cobra. It's not actually a cobra, it looks like a cobra, and it lives up near Johannesburg. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them live up there. And they will play dead if they're threatened. They kind of lie on the ground and open their mouths. I don't know of a mammal out here that plays dead. Although, that said, I know that it's quite interesting, a bit of a sad story, but when that leopard Sindile, who was a year old, when he caught that domestic dog that had rabies, he caught it and it played dead in his mouth. It definitely, as he grabbed it around the neck, it went totally limp. And then he carried it up the tree thinking it was dead and hung it in the tree just like he would a normal kind of kill. And the dog just went totally limp, and you could every so often see it looking up like that, and then it would look down again when it thought it had been spotted. And then when the leopard looked up, or in fact the leopard was chased out of the tree because we didn't want him to eat the dog then got up and ran away. So yes, absolutely, animals will do that. I just don't know that I've ever seen a mammal do it out here. I suspect mongoose do it. Oh, you know, I do know what does it. The honey badger. A honey badger will definitely feign death. So they will often roll off over to the side and kind of keep one eye open. Have you ever feigned death, David, to get away from a predator?
Can't say I have.
No, I haven't either. We'll get one last look at the dying embers of the day as we go towards Drakensberger Road. It's not too far from here. Oh, very nice from Dave as well. There's wonderful stuff coming through here. Are there any animals here that we thought were perhaps extinct that have been rediscovered out here, or that we think may be extinct, or that haven't been seen for a while but we still see signs? Dave, I'm going to get back to you. I can see a shining eye there. Dave, my Dave can't see it because he's just behind. He's not behind the light like I am. Yeah, just keep your there, I can see it again. Just keep your camera trained there. Can you see anything?
No.
There. I cannot begin to tell you what that is. Hang on. This is going to be quite interesting, Dave. If you take the camera there, just hold it right there and see if you get any eye flashes from your angle.
Yes.
You've got eye flashes.
Yes.
Now, I cannot see what that is. Louise thinks it's a bird. It may well be a nightjar, Louise. Oh, it's not a bird. Just keep holding it there, everybody. We will identify this animal. It could be a genet. I can see its eyes shining, but I can't see what it is. I'm going to go back a little bit. Dave, do you want to keep holding it and just see? Oh, it is a bird. Brilliant, Louise. Well done. It was a nightjar. You see it leap into the air like that, unless it's a flying mammal of some sort, which I don't believe it to be. Brilliant, Louise. Maybe you should be doing this job. So, nightjar, everybody. Now, Dave, no. The short answer to your question is no. There are no animals here that have been rediscovered that we thought were extinct. I've no doubt if you looked hard enough at the invertebrate life that you probably could find many examples. But in South Africa, no, I don't think so. Not in terms of mammals. Maybe if you looked at some of the bats or frog species, yes, possibly. I'm just trying to think of one further north of us. I imagine there must be examples of mammals in the Central African rainforest where people are so sparse and where very few sort of biologists and researchers go, where that has happened. But I can't think of one off the top of my head. Dave, if you can think of an example, let us know. Of course, the Kruger Park has got so much human activity. We've got so much human activity around here that for us to discover an animal that we thought was extinct, that isn't extinct, would be very unusual. Something like a quokka, for example. A quokka was is now an extinct species of zebra. James Richard, you were looking for a nightjar. Well, there you are. Probably, most likely, a fiery-necked nightjar, as opposed to the square-tailed or European. European would have gone. Square-tailed or Mozambican probably also not around at the moment. Right, not a lot going on here mammal-wise, but we might be lucky with a couple of bush babies. They do tend to like the silver cluster leaf trees at the moment. Must be some kind of gum in them. And you know that tree that I climbed today, the marula tree, was covered in gum. Covered. I've got very sticky hands. There's some water butt which we're not going to shine a light on. Looking a little bit startled in this direction. Maybe there's a predator of some sort here. Yeah. No predator there, Dave. I don't remember what a predator looks like. Must remember to employ my new spotlighting technique so that I don't light the lens up. There we go. See how sedated it is. I'm like a lighthouse. That's probably why we don't see anything. I'm just going to go around the corner here and get a last look at the embers of the day and have a listen to the changing of the guard. I don't know if anybody knows what I mean when I say the changing of the guard, but I use it because my family once went to England when we were very little boys, my brother and I, and we insisted on going to Buckingham Palace every single morning that we were in London to watch the changing of the guard with the big brass bands and that changing of the guard. Serval. Is it a serval? It is. It's, oh my gosh, that's incredible. That's fantastic. Look at its colours. Just stepped out onto the road in front of us. I cannot believe this. They never stand like this for us, everyone. They're never this relaxed. Look, he's looking for a rodent to eat, and just slinking off into the bush. Coming towards us. Up for all my lack of success today and on any other day. Ha! I suspect that'll be the last we see of it, but this one seems to be so confident. Let's just sneak forward. Fantastic. That's so awesome. See it again, Dave? It'll be hunting through these little clearings, everybody, for gerbils, maybe birds sleeping on the ground. Here's where it crossed in. I think these things are a lot more common than we think they are. I think we just don't see them. They're pretty secretive. Wow. That was a spectacular serval sighting. You're never going to see another picture of a serval like this, everyone. This is unbelievable. It's completely relaxed. It's totally unreactive to us. What can you say? It's listening. It's got huge ears to listen for rustling in the bushes from any kind of rodent. And they leap high up into the air and then sort of fall down on their potential prey. Like I say, normally rodents. So in terms of size, I mean, I suppose you can't really tell the size of it. It's like an enormous house cat. It weighs probably about 13 or kilograms, maybe a bit less, 10 kilograms, 10 or 11 kilos, just over 20 pounds. Quite tall, so probably about, I don't know, about 1.5 feet, 2 feet, no, 2 feet at the shoulder. But you just look like your house cat, doesn't it? This is awesome. This is unbelievable. I've never seen a serval like this. Just strolled merrily onto the road in front of us. I wish you could really see its colours. I don't think this... Well, I suppose the camera's sort of doing it justice, but it's golden. It's a golden colour, like a leopard is a golden colour. It comes. It's going to come out in front of us. Just try and sneak forward. Of course, this car doesn't sneak anywhere. Yeah, it's not reacting at all to the vehicle. There it is. Completely relaxed. Cannot actually believe this. How cool is that? Just sitting pristine and cat-like. Sits very neatly, just like a house cat does. They will apparently tame quite nicely if you get one as a kitten. You know, if you get an orphaned serval. Listening there. Now, we were talking about the senses and the most important senses. For an animal like this, I think you'll find that the most important sense are those ears. They listen for the scurrying of nocturnal rodents in the night. And so you said it looks like a cross between a leopard and a caracal. It does a bit, doesn't it? But it's interesting how that striped and spotted pattern has evolved in lots of different animals from different kind of, different genera, if you like. The different genus from the leopard is Panthera, this one is Felis. So this thing looks like your house cat because it is much more like your house cat than a leopard is. It's the same genus as a caracal. It's a bit smaller than a caracal. Caracal's much more thickly set. This one, rather than leaping up into the air to catch birds, which I'm sure some of you have seen caracal doing, will leap up and kind of fall down, come out of the sky onto the rodents that it likes to eat. Heidi, I think it's an impression you're getting. I'm not sure that that's true. You say that the head is so small compared to the body. It's not really. It's in the same proportions as a house cat would be. Maybe slightly smaller. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. I'm not sure why it would be. I guess a bit like a cheetah, which has got a very small head, but I mean, that's specifically for speed. This is absolutely incredible, people. You don't see this. This doesn't happen. Just marking his territory there, his or her. Couldn't begin to tell you what that one was. We're going to see if we can get one last view around the corner here. No, that's it. Oh, no, it's gone. Ha! Isn't that unbelievable? Well, Rebecca reckons he's looped back. Maybe. Yeah. I think he is in that thicket, actually. I saw some eyes. But I don't see him there. There. Rebecca, how on earth did you manage to see that? Another one for Louise. Apparently it wasn't Rebecca. She very kindly handed the credit over to Louise, the nightjar spotter, and now Serval spotter. Dave, you just tell me when you get a decent picture.
Just lost visual.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it through there.
You see it?
No. I think he's in these thickets. There he is. Oh, sorry everybody, I'm not looking behind us. Let's just see if we can find him quickly. If we can't, we'll leave him be. Much better going forward, David.
Yeah.
No, I think he's gone, everyone. There he is. He's even closer than he was before. Can you believe this? I'm absolutely gobsmacked by this. How's this? This is really awesome. How quietly he walks. And the tail is very short. Rebecca's just noticed, yes, the tail on the caracal and this cat is very short. They're not ambush predators in the same way that the other cats are. They're much more sort of leaping predators, I guess you'd call them. Here he goes. He has not so much as looked at us once. Not while I've been talking, not when we start the car. He's completely ignoring us. So we are going to, chaps, we're just going to keep watching this. So, I mean, if you're expecting the show to close, we're going to keep watching until the serval disappears. This is just too special not to watch for as long as we possibly can, especially on a warm evening like this. There he goes. See if he turns back again. I'm saying he. Oh, it could be a she. No idea. Still got him, Dave. He's good.
Just making him off.
His timing was impeccable. There he is. Getting off into the darkness there. That's so cool. Wow. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Wow. That's the highlight of my year so far. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, James.
Big thank you to Sam, of course, being filmed by Brian on the other vehicle, and to Rebecca and Louise in the final control, and to all of you have asked me some incredibly great questions today, and I just want to have a big shout out to Dean in Nelspruit for his question on the elephants. Thank you, Dean, and for teaching us. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. Bye-bye.